Hey, welcome everyone. This is Dan with the Spiritual Underground Podcast, doing a little prelude to my next interview. We'll introduce that person here in just a little bit. Hope everything's going on well out there. Kind of thought it was funny that I got a warning on my YouTube video the last time around, and YouTube doesn't tell you crap about why, but it came from them and asked me to make sure I was up to speed with the community guidelines. I really can't imagine what we talked about that wasn't. Who knows? No big deal. Got this big cabinet finished today. Got to take it apart and finish it. It's going to have to be assembled in place. It's too big to move into the area, so I made it where it breaks down and all together, and get started finishing it soon. And super looking forward to the retreat this weekend. By the time you hear this, the retreat will be winding up. So I plan to take my gear down there and create an episode from the retreat while we're there. I did that last year and patched it together. Don't know exactly how I'm going to go about it this time around, but I'm going to do something to that effect. Everybody's all juiced up. Weather looks like it's going to be fantastic. Small group of fantastic dudes coming, so looking forward to that. Tomorrow will be like Christmas Eve, getting things together and ready to go, so that all is it's just like preparing for a trip. You know, half of the fun with these things is the anticipation and the planning, and that seems to be the case for most of my trips. The trip itself is always cool, and those events are cool. But the anticipation and getting your gear together and making sure you have everything, and I'm a list maker, so I make a list of items. The cabin and the property are in fantastic shape, so I've got that completely ready to go. What else is going on? Indiana's opening up. The other day it opened. You could tell it opened because you could drive by the gas station and see the gas price just all of a sudden jump from like, well, I don't know, it was down in the I don't even remember. Approaching $1 a gallon. I don't know, $1.19 at some places, $1.29, and bam, $1.99. Got a haircut appointment a couple weeks out. Another funny thing. Never had to wait that long for a haircut in my life, or this long. And just listening to the goofy stuff that's wrapped around this, I did do a good job of recreating my installation around all of it. I'm just not going to get myself involved in it. It looks like politics are ramping up, and the whole COVID thing is ramping up, and I got to put my shield up and stay safe from all that, because it's just flat out not good for me. I can go down rabbit holes that are not good for me. This past week, and if you're listening to this now, you missed it, because TSSR, the 12-Step Spiritual Recovery Book, was free on Kindle for a promotional 5 days. It's still affordable, so go check it out. It's the 12 Steps for everyone. Get some of these commercials. DTM Enterprises, DTM Handyman, Woodworking. Actually, what it is DTM Woodworking Handyman, dtmww.net. Contact me if you're in the Louisville metropolitan area and you want some work done. Really wanting to lean towards getting more woodwork and projects going on. So if you got something that you want made and can't find it on Amazon, or it's just not right, got some doggy ramps I'm building for somebody because she just couldn't find what was right online or at anywhere else, and we can build it to her specifications and make it right. Same thing with this big cabinet. He wanted something nice, but couldn't find what he wanted for the price range. And we came together on it. So, dtmww.net. Darren Frank's music's wrapped around this thing. Darren's doing good. Although he's still holed up in the facility because those places are on lockdown. Well, I know I went long last time. I went 20 minutes and didn't really mean to talk that long. Guest ought to be here in a few minutes. So, we'll sign off here. And we'll pick up in just a few minutes. Love y'all. Thanks. Peace out. Hello, everyone. This is Dan with the Spiritual Underground Podcast. Stumbled on that just a little bit. Spiritual Underground Podcast. That's funny. Coming to you from my wood shop in my backyard at DTM Enterprises. You heard where you can contact me if you have anything you need in that direction here in the Louisville metropolitan area. Tell a story. Y'all heard I did a little intro already, so I'm going to get right to it. And this date wants to slip away from me once in a while. And I don't understand why it does. It's almost like it's interesting. But I'm pretty sure it was March the 23rd of 2011, and I was coming off of what I would consider to be now a very bad weekend. I'd come home from a vacation, had run out of pills, had gotten in a fight with my wife, got smashed out drunk, didn't come home all night long, got a flat tire on my way home in the morning. And when I got home, my wife was walking out the door with her dad, and I was certain that they were going to see a divorce attorney. Turned out they were actually just going to get a load of bricks so she could do some landscaping. That's exactly how these alcoholic minds think. But a little bit later on in the day, she looked at me square in the eyes and she said, "What is wrong with you, Dan?" And I told her. I said, "My drinking and doping's out of control." And that was a Monday. She had me call my doctor, and I did that. He got me a referral to a treatment center. He gave me some of the best news I've ever heard in my life, and I still remember it today. He said, "Dan, I cannot help you." And just like in the big book, it says the gates of hell clanged. That's what happened. I thought, well, what do you mean you can't help me? And he said, "I can give you a referral to a treatment center, and I can have you ever heard of AA?" And I lied and said no. I've been court-ordered AA when I was like 16, 17, 18, when I was getting DUIs back before I was even drinking age. And but I don't really remember that at all. But I've been going to church out here, a local church, and every Sunday when I got, it really isn't true necessarily in this regard, but that happy wife, happy life thing I was trying to play, so I went to church even though I really didn't want to. One of the things I did, opened up that bulletin, and every time I opened up that damn bulletin, they'd talk about some damn AA meeting in this building, and it would just pop on me, like, why they had to put that in bigger print than anything else in the bulletin? It looked like it to me anyway. And but fact of the matter was, I had known where an AA meeting was, and I talk about that Bob Earl's Eskimo story too. And I had bumped into a guy that I worked with in the hallway at church one night, and I asked him what he was doing there, and he said he was at an AA meeting. So just like weeks before I knew I was going to need an AA meeting, I've been seeing it in the bulletin, and then there, lo and behold, there's Milt standing outside an AA meeting, and basically like a barber pole, he was telling me exactly where the meeting was in the building too, and I like that's the way my higher power works. If I, it's plain if I will look. And anyway, I got the guts up to go to that AA meeting. I wasn't going to go to a treatment center for a few days because I knew the world couldn't survive without me, and I put that off until like Friday or something. And but I said I'd go to this AA meeting, so I looked it up, and I called Joe on telephone and asked him what I needed to do, if I needed to be there early, fill out any paperwork or anything like that. He laughed at me. He still remembers that. And I showed up, and cut to the quick a little bit. First thing I saw was a bunch of people who is not who I expected to see. What I expected to see was your, under the bridge kind of down and out drunks, and what I walked into was a bunch of middle-aged normal people, or middle-class normal people, just regular old Joes like you see when you go anywhere else. You go in a restaurant, they're sitting there too. That was relieving. There was another fear I had, was I would see somebody I knew, and as luck would have it, I didn't know anybody in that meeting, nobody. And you all have heard this a little bit, but they do that thing where they say, "Is this anybody's first AA meeting?" And I raised my hand, and what I know today is there's usually a pause to allow people who are slow to raise their hands in that call. That's not the easiest thing to do. There was that pause after I raised my hand and said who I was, and I thought that pause meant I was supposed to say more. So I just said real quickly a couple words and told people where I was at, that I hadn't had a drink since Sunday night. And so I was like on day 3. and gave a little bit of what was going on. And that group did what I've watched AA do before, and what I've watched this particular group do a number of times, is raise a person up that's come in there who's beaten down, and the meeting becomes, where this group pours a bunch of their experience, strength, and hope on that person. And that's what I received that night in buckets full. And I met a lot of people, and I still to this day know exactly where I was sitting in that room that day. I can tell you a bunch of people who were sitting in there with me. I can almost do a roll call of the people who are in that room. And one of those people was sitting across the table from me today. And what kicked me quickly was a beautiful big smile and a lot of passion about what this program, what recovery can do for somebody. And I felt that, and that, not just see it, I felt it that night. There was like core reaching in, like tentacles or something, reaching into my soul, telling me, this is it, Dan. And I will never forget your smile on your face from that night. I will never forget it. My guest tonight is Debbie T. How are you doing tonight? I got you fogged up a little bit, didn't I?
Yeah, I'm doing good, Dan. Woo. He rocked some emotions there a little bit. I remember.
Yeah,
I remember very well.
Yeah, I will never forget that. Those moments that you have. I just shot chills through my body right now thinking about it. Those times when you know that, like, God, higher power, is like has you exactly where you're supposed to be at that moment, and there's like no doubt about it. It was there, and I knew the people that were there were there for the same reason. Because I might be skewed a little bit, but I don't think I am. That meeting became about me.
Yeah,
and about what this can do for somebody, and what everybody did was told their experience about what had happened to them, and as they shared, in order to allow me to hear that and know that it could happen for me too. Now, I was nowhere near ready, but I walked out of there with a whole bunch of telephone numbers. I walked out of there with literature. Somebody gave me a big book. My visual walking out that door was like having 2 5-gallon buckets full of hope. It's something I didn't have when I walked in the door.
Wow.
And if I could, I've watched that moment be recreated with some people, and over time, and it's just an awesome thing when that happens. But back to that, I will never forget your smile, and I'll never forget the impact you had on me that night.
Thank you,
and I
Dad.
thank you for that.
You just recreated it for me. I mean, like, I could feel the whole emotions, everything was swelling up when you were telling them the story. I can remember the evening. I can remember where you sat. I remember where I was sitting. I could picture the circle. And you were desperate.
I was.
You were desperate. I can't remember if I shared or anything like that, but I can remember smiling at you, and I can remember talking to you afterwards and what I know about me. And it's happened many a times, and it happened that night. My heart, it was just so heavy, I know I hadn't forgotten. That's a lot of it. I hadn't forgotten what that felt like.
That feels like, yeah.
And it was just like, I don't know. It's humbling, and I guess I probably may even blush a little bit, but to know him, and I don't know how to talk about it, and I don't even want to know how to talk about it without getting emotional. To know that you've impacted somebody that profoundly just because you suit up and show up and do what somebody did for you, which was me, I didn't know. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm just me. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so I smile. So I smile, and you just hope. Yes, you want to give hope, and that really touches me, and I thank God for that, because it's a beautiful thing. That's why.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Yeah, and that's why that's the very reason why once in a while goofy thoughts will jump in my head and stuff about whether if I still like the Zoom thing has happened to me. Like I don't know how to go back to regular meetings in a way, and I didn't want to do the Zoom ones. I bucked that. I was like, screw this. We should get together anyway. Hell with them.
Same.
And and then once I got into the Zoom thing, I said, well, I'll just I'll run the damn Zoom meeting. That'll give me something to do and keep my foot in the iron, or in the fire, keep me I'll make a commitment and I'll keep my commitment. And but now like that, and I don't have to take a shower to go to a meeting, and I don't have
know.
To, you know. And,
I mean, I've been on walks.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And the last meeting, I think I was in. They're like, "Where are you at? You look like you're in Florida." I was in the backyard in a chair in the sky, be blue. I've been out in Dean Lake. I walked at the mountain one time.
Yeah.
And
You don't.
like,
You can have a meeting wherever you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. But I would that thing. But I know where I was going with that was like, you know, something once in a while, and I think we all have these thoughts about like, do we got to keep on going to meetings? Do we, you know, maybe I don't need to do that as much, or maybe I don't need to do that as all, or maybe if I'm doing this other thing instead, that will be good enough. Mm-hmm. And but that. I do feel a certain responsibility to have my butt in the chair because some other dude like me coming through someday needs somebody else to sit there and pour that on them too, because they deserve that chance too, man. And those rooms empty out, and people aren't doing that.
And you may smile at them across the room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep, that's exactly right. Yeah. So your sobriety date?
My sobriety date is February the 2nd of 2000.
Right. Just a couple months ago, 20 years. I have you in my phone.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah, I know. That was neat. Yeah,
I keep track of my friends.
That blew me away too. I was kind of like, what? And you know, I gotta be. Well, I say I'm an honest person, you know, and really to keep it all the way real, I was kind of like, did I say anything? He talked to somebody, or he seen it on. Did he see something or something somewhere? There's got to be a reason Dan just randomly shoots me this text thing, and then I was like, Deb, stop it. Just stop it. It don't matter. How cool is that? You know, and it felt really, really good. You know, it felt really, really good.
It's goofy old Happy stuff, man. I hinge a whole lot of things on Happy shaking his finger in my face one night up in Corden after a Dairy Queen thing. We were just like you were saying earlier, we're sitting in McDonald's, we were sitting in a Dairy Queen or a Pizza Hut or someplace.
Yeah, like what seemed forever.
Yeah. And afterwards it was just him and I, and walked out, and I can't remember. I was doing that balking and wanting to do something, you know, trying to find the loopholes and all that. And I don't know that he even really shook his finger in my face. I feel like he did.
Yeah,
I don't know. But my visual
it's your story.
He shook his finger in my face, and he was just exasperated. He just kind of just went, you know, with a big sigh, and he went, "Thing is, Dan, you must participate in your own recovery." And at the time, that meant, you know, I was just like, you know, screw you. You know, I don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. And, well, you know what, that's become real for me in the past bunch of years because the greater level I participate in my recovery, frankly, the greater the miracles get poured on me as a result of it. You know, I don't know exactly how that happens, and that's not my goal. It's not like I'm not like wanting to trade. It's not a bartering thing. It just works out really well for me. You know, I stay happy, I stay serene, I have cool things happen to me, and like this podcast, like the retreat that's happening this weekend, all these things I get to do, I'm pretty sure are a result of me participating in this deal. And I know they're all hinged on me having recovered. This stuff don't happen if you don't.
That's cool that you
don't
know
get
that.
to-
I know you know that. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get to do this and have that. I do that cake and eat it too kind of thing. So yeah, 20 years, and so like that was 8 or 9. That's 9 years ago since I walked into that first meeting.
Wow. Wow.
Time really kicks.
It
up in
doesn't,
gear.
you know, I need to say, I think I hear myself say a little bit, like, I could ask you, does it seem like that long? You know, to me, it doesn't seem like 20 years.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and I don't plan it, but it comes out automatically, whether I'm talking one-on-one with somebody or a group or whatever. And I always like to say, all that is a whole bunch of one days at a time. Because when I'm telling somebody that, or can you remember that? I can remember that be like 20 years. You're like, shh, you made that up. I don't know what you doing, girl, but you doing something. I mean, there's no way you've just, you know, been in some kind of recovery for 20 years. I mean, I just couldn't fathom it. I mean, that sounded nuts. And it's just a bunch of one days at a time. Before you know it, the days go to a week, and weeks go to a month go to a year, and the years go, and here we are at Dance.
Yeah.
Talking about recovery.
Yeah.
You know? On, what is this? Is this 13th?
Yeah, I don't
May
even know.
13th of 2020.
Is it the 13th?
I
It
don't
sure
know. I
is.
may
You're
do.
right.
Is it? Now be dang.
I lose track of in this whole thing going on, and I lose track of days. But I lost track of days a while back when I left that regular day job where Monday mattered and Tuesday mattered and Wednesday
Yeah.
mattered. Now that I'm doing my own thing, running my beat of my own drummer, I lose track of the days quickly.
I have to write it at work, so I usually look. And if
Yeah.
I'm off, I usually don't know what the
I don't
date
ever have to-
is.
I can think of the last time I wrote the date down.
Yeah, yeah. But I get it. If I didn't have to, I usually don't know what the date is.
Now and again, as I'm going around visiting clients, and I'll be taking some notes, for whatever reason, I'm drawn to put a date on the note so I'll know when I made it.
Okay.
But that's about, and usually I have to get my phone out there and do that, but it doesn't register. Doesn't register at all. So did you grow up around here?
I did.
New
I
Albany?
grew up really close to here.
Like really close to
I
here.
I grew up. I don't know if they know where you're at, but
Some
I
do.
grew up here in New Albany, right off Charlestown Road on a street called Coes Lane. I lived there on that street for a long time. I think when I was real little, I lived in Charlestown, for a little bit, and all I remember is, even first grade, I lived on Coast Lane, and I moved.
Did they have you
out.
going to Slate Run?
I actually went to Our Lady Perpetual
Oh, did
Help,
you?
the first through the 8th grade, sure did, and Perpetual Help was my mom's parish, and we went there, and went to school for 8 years over. Marched across the way and went to church every morning, kind of like you hear every day, twice on Sunday. I don't think I went twice on Sunday, but yeah, I moved out when I was 18. We lived in one house, and then we moved in another house. My mom and dad had divorced when I was young, and it was the weirdest thing, I tell you it was. But we moved in an old white house, old 2-story white house that set back a long gravel driveway over there. And I say over there, y'all, it's like not too many blocks away from where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah.
And I was sharing that there's a tree down the street from where Dan lives here that has a bar through it, and we would all go meet at this bar. It was our little meeting place, and them mostly boys. Them boys, my brothers, so to speak, we'd meet there and hang out and run around, ride bikes, and
I'd bet $100 we bumped into.
oh,
each
I
other
mean,
down
we
there.
had
I
to
would bet
have.
anything.
Oh, and there was. I mean, I know a kid. I think it was one of these side streets. It was one of these headings, and I was like, "Yeah, we had to meet." So I grew up there until I moved out when I was 18, and this was my stomping grounds. This was a lot, and back over the other way too. So yeah, I grew up in New Albany here. And then after I went to Perpetual Help, I went to Hazelwood in the 9th grade, and then I went to New Albany High where I graduated. And that was the story there on that part.
Yeah, I was everything the same except for I went to Fairmont, across the road right there, and all my schools were walking distance. Mm-hmm. I walked to school because hell, I lost my driver's license in high school already through DUI, so I was back to walking, and I had my driver's license for 6 months, and then
Dang, I wasn't my story. I do remember walking to school because I wanted to. We had a bus. But the bus wouldn't. I mean, it was fun or walking. I think I could
we'd
probably
meet up with-
stop by the store and jack some bubble gum or something.
right, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
And
I
I'd
don't
meet
know.
up a couple of us. Somebody wait for you down there as you walk by, and you'd pick up. And by the time you got
Yeah.
to school, there might be 4 of you or whatever, 4 or 5 of you walking
It
to
was
school
fun.
together. Yeah, it was fun.
It was
I
fun.
chose to walk at times too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I grew up here. I grew up around here. It was fun times, simpler times, fun stuff. Pretty innocent fun, most of it. Start running around. Doing. What we did then was. It might have been wrong or bad, but it still was simpler back then. That was a long time ago, but. It was easy. Grounders, flyers, hang out. A lot of it was outside. The woods was all around us. We hung out back there.
Yeah,
And
you had these little pockets of woods around where you could go play and hang out and hide.
I had some hiding spots. Yeah, I always. I was talking about a friend the other day. I always went to the woods. I always escaped back. Even in a real small age, I'd go out in the nature, and I didn't think much about it then, but looking back on it, I've always done that.
You were drawn.
Yeah, very, very drawn. Yeah.
So did as far as what when you moved out and
Oh, my. Yeah. Ooh, that's where a lot
Something
of it
led you up
began.
to 20 years ago going.
Oh, well, when I was a teenager, I didn't get in a lot of the trouble I hear a lot of people talk about leading. Well, that's not true. I just didn't get in trouble with the law a lot. My mother raised me and my three sisters pretty much, and I was the youngest of three girls. I'm 56 years old, and I'm okay with that. You've been through all what I've been through. You'd be okay with that, too. And we're like, well, I think now they're getting ready to have birthdays. In October, we'll be, like the stair steps, like 57, 58, 59 or whatever. So we were all real, closely aged, but I was always like kind of loaned out, most of the time. I was like a little loner. I don't remember, really hanging out with them a whole lot. And mother, she worked her butt off. Excuse me, she worked up the ammunition plant for 30 years, and we where was I going with that? Oh, my mom, we knew what was expected of us. You didn't have to figure a lot out. She was a disciplinarian, and we it's funny how your perspectives changed, Dan. Back then I thought, oh my gosh, it was so terrible. I was so mistreated.
Yeah.
I was so picked on. Oh my gosh, she was so mean. And she may have been those things. I mean, I'm not gonna say, well, my gosh, she probably had to. But now that I think about it, sometimes I was like, man, my mom had to be tired, when I came along. And I don't try to boast or toot my own horn about how bad I was or anything, but I was a runner. I liked to run. And now I understand some reasons, and stuff, and being the youngest. And what's real interesting, my oldest sister just came up. We was at my oldest son's birthday party, and we were talking, a bunch of us together at the table of family, and she was like, you always got away with everything. And it just so happened that that Judy, my sponsor at the time, was there at that party too, and we were all talking. I was like, did you hear? I mean, what do you mean? I said, I wasn't spoiled. And Teresa, my older sister, spoke up. She said, I didn't say you were spoiled. I said, you got away with everything. I'm like, is there a difference? Okay, I don't know. But see, what I learned something that day, and that was just a little over a couple of years ago. The way I see things and the way they see things is never and still isn't the same. I've learned a lot from them, but I did get away with a lot. I at a very young age, I was running. I was spilling my oats a little bit. I was always boy crazy, and then, I just honestly, I couldn't stand to be home. I didn't ever want to be home, and I was a social. I was real social, and that was okay for a while until I found drink. I mean, that happened. That you're teenagers, you hang out. The skating rink was real popular up back then, and oh my gosh, you drank. And I smoked a little weed when I was in junior high, and didn't think too much about that or anything. But then what I noticed is I started finding reasons to get out of the house. I'd babysit more. Hear me tell it. I'd babysit more, and I mean, I'd have this big thing, this big plan for the weekend, because what I know now is what happened. For one, it was fun, and I was all about the fun. That's all I want to do is just have fun. Just why can't we all just have fun? Peace and love and everything else, and irresponsible. I mean, I had a job at a young age in high school, but I got out every chance I could, Dan, and I figured out that I liked whiskey. I liked whiskey, and I liked beer too. I liked anything, but I can remember being young and drinking, hanging out in that little crowd, and what happened was I'd do whatever it took to I want to say, like, open that door to make that happen for the next weekend or whatever, and it just started happening. So I'd lie and manipulate and do whatever I needed to do to make that happen. And what was going on is, even at that young age, I was hanging out, where and when I shouldn't have been, and being I was very rebellious. I bucked my mother a lot, and I can see that now. And I'm not saying we fought because I stayed grounded a lot. I couldn't seem to follow rules. I couldn't, anything about that. I just couldn't seem to pull it off, man. I wanted to. I'd be like, I swear I just can't do it. But I was a liar. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was just a liar. I do whatever I had to do, and
you almost have to some extent, in a way, because you can't do what you want to do.
No.
So you gotta lie about it.
I did.
You don't have no choice, really.
And I think about it, Dan, and my mother's not alive today, but I think about it and I talk about it, and I got the opportunity to make amends, and we worked on a really cool relationship before she passed, and it was like, wow, man, I just look at it, and my mother and I's relationship's a big part of my recovery, and because of the guilt of all the stuff I put her through was so strong. I often say that sometimes I just can't believe, my higher power is really awesome, I can't believe that I got through that, just the guilt of that relationship of my mother and my kiddos, that I could never drank or took a drug over that in and of itself.
Right. Yeah.
But I didn't. And so, I think about that, and I think, the best of my knowledge, what I can remember, I don't think she checked. She didn't come look. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. My mother had a really, really strong faith. Like, oh my gosh, I'm sure I was prayed for by, oh man, my mother, my aunts, my grandma, probably people she worked with. You don't work for somebody 30 years and know a little bit of something
right.
about, I'm sure they prayed for Deborah, and that's kind of funny I mentioned that. That's been a little bit of topic and conversation in a couple areas of my life lately, that prayer, I believe, can go on like years and years, or a generation later, or I know that, I'm sure I was prayed into recovery a lot. But anyway.
Don't operate on our clock. That's on a different kind of scale than we operate on.
I'm telling you. So, I just, some in terms of events led up, and me and my mom, I still don't know if it's exactly right. And, somebody told me one time, it's like, Dev, you spend a little time on your timeline, the years, because it's all, and I don't do it anymore. I don't know exactly what happened, but what I do know, and I haven't forgot it yet, and I hope I never do, I can picture the night. I can picture my mother and me sitting down talking. I think my story is, I think she was out of town, or with my aunt or something. I don't know how it happened. I don't know if we had a party. I think my sister was included on it, but it seemed like it went something like this. That maybe like my friends, which were kind of their friends too, but not when it was time to go home, like the neighborhood people or whoever it was came. Some reason, I think like the truth came out about this whole thing or something, and me and my mom ended up getting in a fuss. And the truth is, it doesn't really matter exactly what it was about. What I know is I can remember my mother, I was leaving. I was leaving, Dan. I was just going somewhere, and I didn't know where. And I don't remember making, it must have been a snap decision. And I can picture her face, and she was just, it was something like this, she was upset, I was upset. By upset, I mean crying, and she was something like, why, what are you doing, where, what, don't, and I left, and I never came back. I just left that night and went up to the little Pizza King Oh, everybody knows me, knows the Pizza King thing, but it's where a bunch of us hung out. And, there was, when we grew up, there was Scoops and Marios and pinballs and asteroids and all that fun stuff. And we hung out and we, I'm sure we drank and we just did,
Magic Galaxy, is that what that
Magic
was?
Galaxy was over there. Yeah, good for you.
I remember all that stomping around here. We moved into this house when I was 3, and I've been connected to this house now for 47 more years.
Wow, yeah, you remember. That's right. You remember all that. Well, that's
what we did.
That was our thing.
What else?
It was innocent fun. I mean, a lot of that time I wasn't supposed to be up there.
Right.
And there was a fella up there. They were everywhere. But there was one there that I took a liking to. And man, I just wanted to be up there every chance I could. That's just the way it was. It was just fun. I mean, we hung out, the gang, which our gang got kind of big, because by this time the kids from over there, and it was getting bigger. And I didn't call anybody. I just went straight up there.
Yeah.
I didn't have a plan where I was laying my head that night, or anything. And that blows my mind now.
Yeah.
It blows my mind how my mother was, where the seat she was in, and how she felt, and that's what I don't never want to forget. And I took my butt up there, and I ended up. I'm sure that those friends were there. You could count on it. I mean, I'd save my quarters or steal yours or whatever I had to do, for my sister, just to go up and play Donkey Kong and hang out and maybe a Coke, and somebody got some cherry vodka or something somehow or somewhere, and that's kind of how that's how my journey.
I wonder if they still make cherry vodka.
Oh man,
sure.
Do they? I need to ask somebody.
I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
I
haven't heard of that
until I said
term
that.
Until just then.
Oh, it went real well with that fountain Coke on crushed ice.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not romancing it. I'm just telling you. I remember specifically. Well, I ended up staying at this. I went and stayed with this girl. She was part of our little, circle there, and she was one of the guys' girlfriend. And I went to her house, and I stayed the night, and I ended up staying there for months. And that guy that I was kind of smitten by, across that counter that was managing that Pizza King, and I hooked up, and I ended up getting pregnant. And I had my first child, my firstborn, Joshua. Senior summer, I was fresh out of high school. Man, I'm telling you, I mean, it was on. My first concert and all that stuff was happening. I like to say that, well, what it really was is it was the start of my path to self-destruction. Is what it was. That decision. I mean, I'd already made some pretty crappy decisions, but nothing that was really, I couldn't get out of without being grounded or something like that. But that started it, and from then on, I believe I was already feeding some addiction, so to speak. I believe, that the guy thing was getting ready to start. I didn't know that then, and the drinking and the partying, started then. Like, whew. Green light, go. It was on. I'm gonna breathe for a minute. Okay,
yeah, it's okay. I have a tendency to want to fill the air, but I get a lot of good feedback from my friends who listen to this.
Yeah. Okay.
It's cool.
All right.
They help me.
Okay. Cool. So, I was staying there at that family's house. Man, they were, I want to say gracious. I mean, it just kind of happened. I mean, I'm not saying they condoned it. They're, and it's not that I do protect them because they're good people. They went to the parish, and I think about how my mom must have felt, and stuff. I never talked to her. I didn't talk to her for a while. I mean, I had so much guilt. I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And we back then, I mean, I don't speak on it out loud as for names, but they was known that you could go by and there'd probably be a party or a hangout or something, you know. But they were just the most giving people. I want to call it like what's the word, you know? Well, it was kind of a sense of serving. But I can remember, like, there was one guy, sometime he might have problems at home or something, you know, and they never just put anybody out. And I think about it now, and I never contacted my mom, but I did share that I ended up, when I got pregnant, you know, I was working at Wendy's. That was my first job. I'd been there for a while. And my sister worked at McDonald's. And I don't really know how it went down. This is what I visualized, as I was probably walking past McDonald's to Wendy's, and my stomach was probably growing. Or I don't know how. I really honestly don't remember. But somehow me and my mother ended up talking. And I went home, and she seen me for the first time in months, pregnant, and met father-to-be. I don't say baby's daddy. I can't handle it. I never did like that.
Yeah.
I just don't like that, man.
I don't like
Yeah, things were bad enough with the baby daddy thing, you know. But anyway, so, you know, she invited me home, and I think about that now, and just what a blessing. What a blessing to have a mother that was that. I don't know. I want to call it unconditional love, but I hesitate to. I think we throw unconditional love around a little loosely sometimes, you know. But because mother had some conditions on me living there, you know. But anyway, I mean, I was a young mother. I got married to Mark, to Josh's daddy, when he was 6 months old. And what I will say about that just came to mind, it usually does, and I'm thankful for that God gives me that, is I know that I already had a lot of guilt and a lot of shame, you know, building up. And then, you know, I moved home out of home like I told you. I got pregnant like I told you. Josh was born out of wedlock like I told you. So I already had this list going of things. You know, I was a sinner, you know, and I do want to say, too, my mom didn't, like, I hear a lot of that. You know, I'm born and raised a Catholic girl. I don't remember getting beat over the head with the word, or I'm brimstone fire, you're going to hell, Deborah Sue, you know, or whatever. She had her ways of the discipline, and I do want to share on this. I knew in my core, I already knew that I was right and wrong. I'm a little iffy with right and wrong too.
But
you know,
stepped over the line.
I just knew that I was crossing some lines. Yes, you know, and my morals, you know, and all that were being compromised. And I stepped over the line. That's good. I like that. So just the shame by this time, and so anyway. I had Joshua, Mark and I got married. My mom stood up for us, and my sister-in-law. Mark had a twin brother. His wife, Bridget, stood up for me, and I think my mom probably was that witness down there at Floyd County, the Justice of the Peace. Her daughter get married and didn't even want to do that. I can't speak for her. She's never told me that, but I'm pretty feeling okay saying, you know, like she was probably just like totally. You want to talk about letting go? She probably had to do a whole lot of letting go, and she never did treat him mean or bad, you know. I probably wasn't the pick for her daughter, or the way things happened for her daughter.
Yeah.
And being a mama now with a daughter, I get all that. And, I get all that. So, you know, I didn't know anything about being a mama. I didn't know anything about being a wife. I had some ideas, but I done smashed the pretty much the ideas of, let's see, I was going to get married when I was 25, have a couple of kids, you know, and I don't know about a white picket fence, but it had the look in my mind's eye, you know, of what was going to be like. Little did I know, you know, and I mean, we did the best we could, you know. I did the best I could with what I had, and I can speak on him a little bit. I don't really try to tell his story, but I do know enough that I know he had a alcohol and a drug problem probably then that I didn't even know about. I was very naive. That surprises a lot of people if you know me these days. I always was real strong-willed, real outspoken, real free-spirited, and all that stuff. But when it came to the relational, with the fellas, it was inward. It was back. It was always a little backwards. And I'm okay talking about that because it's the truth, and I didn't take very good care of myself. I never did. I didn't like speak up like you think I might, and I would. I ended up speaking up after a while, and so, we played a house a little bit. We ended up getting a little place, and we stayed up his mom's for a while, and then finally him and I got a little place and tried to do the deal, and it didn't work. It didn't work. It didn't work. I kind of just stopped my using my dependency. I don't know if I had a dependency then. As far as a invisible line of when I crossed anything, I'm not really sure about all that. I believe, way down deep inside, something was in Deb, or missing.
Yeah, because I get that. I had these periods where I used from the time I was in middle school, at some level, and it would creep up, and there was peaks and valleys, and then, for some reason, and I really don't know what it would be, any particular reason, I'd stop for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'd have these periods where I didn't, but then I'd roll back, right? I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be sitting here if that hadn't happened, but I get you, and I don't really know if a dependence really had its hooks in me back then, or if that just was the nature of the progression. It just was able to actually set it down for a while, because after a while, I could not even begin to set it down for a damn day, let alone.
I could then.
Yeah, right.
I could then.
Yeah, you could.
I almost want to say I had to.
But that
I mean, I had other things to do.
Yeah.
I was trying to be, the wife. I was trying to be the mama, and I wasn't going out. I wasn't socializing. I wasn't drinking. I was just trying to maintain.
Yeah.
I mean, it got ugly. A lot of that got ugly. I don't know why I didn't put that in there, like I'm being cautious or something. I'm not. I know what it is, but it's like abusive, and I think what I had the biggest problem forgiving myself over was what I allowed myself to become. I used to blame that person. Oh, I was such a victim. I mean, I may have been a victim in some ways, but I meant the other kind of victim, and oh my God, look what they did to me, and and really within 5 years, it was all gone. But it seemed like forever. I mean, I ended up leaving. It wasn't good. None of it was good. Without going a bunch of details, it just wasn't. None of it was good. I stay in touch with my mom and, family a little bit. I do some functions or whatever, but I had all them secrets I didn't really share with anybody. And some of those people in that gang that I grew up with, we were all still hanging occasionally, and I'd party a little bit here and there. And then we got divorced, and I went back to my mom's, something like that, and it was on. It was like I didn't know about the word progression until I got in recovery.
Yeah, right.
If I heard it, do you remember hearing? I don't remember hearing the word.
This is all hindsight stuff.
What was progression? I don't even know. I didn't even know that word existed, or I didn't use it.
Yeah, I like you think I didn't have. I really look back now, and I don't think I ever had a chance to not like use. I think it was in me somehow, whatever that is. We call it spiritual sickness, whatever, and it had me from the time I was a kid, and the only thing what the drink and all that was actually was what was the medicine really for a while, right?
It was just
waiting. Make me be okay, I could be okay if I was drinking. I couldn't be okay not drinking. I never was okay from the time, that whole thing, and never feeling like I fit in. Never always seeming to be struggling to communicate with other kids my age. Just couldn't. And when I got that magic elixir in me, all of a sudden, phew, hey man, I can be your buddy now.
Yeah, it was all okay.
Yeah, and
It was all okay.
So
Well,
so I don't know about that. You know,
pretend like.
it's that peeling of the onion and going back and looking at that story now, and go and like put some pieces together and go, oh, now I see what was going on. You know, that's what that was.
It really is. That is the most beautiful thing. I swear, I was telling a friend the other day, it's like, man, just stay sober. I mean, you ain't got any reason to believe me other than I'm not a liar today. I mean, if you got some time, I'll tell you some more stories, you know, but this happens. And you were talking about the onion that triggered that thought. Look, I get so excited. I am passionate. Yes, I am. I just get so excited about it, but it's like, I swear, just stay. Don't go nowhere. Peel that back. You know, I didn't know all that stuff about me. I didn't know how broken I was, Dan.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't know all that. I didn't know that I had a need for a guy so bad I was willing to put myself to go to any length, you know, to just give your everything. I don't know if anybody's ever been there if you're listening to this, but I mean everything. You don't even, I was the Deb who, you know? So anyway, and then I went to my mom's and, you know, I started running.
So because now because Mom would take care of Joshua?
No, Mama didn't take care of it. Let's get that straight.
Okay, I was just wondering why the lid come off and why that allowed to happen.
I had Joshua, and Mom didn't take care of it. I lived there with her. And by the way, Daddy wasn't allowed to stay. We were married there for a while. Okay, we got married, we moved. Mom didn't take care of Joshua. I moved back to Mom's. And, I mean, Mom had some rules. Mom had some rules like Mom had all along. I love that about my mother. Mm-hmm. I need to honor her on that. My mother was consistent. She was okay. I mean, like, you would have thought she may have, like, tapped into some sister program or something to help her. My mom had a guy that was, you know, and a lot of support. That's what I know today. You know, and she didn't give, man. You
watch people. There's some people, you know, I don't know how many there are. I but there's some people that just naturally know how to like do things, right? I never did. My dad is an example of that. I watch him like operate like naturally and healthy without trying.
That's really well put.
Hey,
yeah.
How do you do that? You know, and actually, you know, before being in recovery, I couldn't really see it, and now I appreciate that a lot more because, like you said, he's been consistent. That was one thing I can totally appreciate, and that's certainly one thing I didn't give my damn kids when I was doing.
I think that's why it's so important.
Was nowhere in my life. Now I hope it is. You know, now I'm actually the same. Every time they see me, I'm pretty much the same.
See,
dude.
that's awesome.
And that's what my dad always has done. And sometimes it hits me in the head like with a frying pan. Sometimes when I watch him have something happen to him, and watch him like react in a natural and healthy way rather than like
like wow,
like instead of like dynamite or self-destructive. Like wow. You know, I mean, for example, the times like. Well, my mom passed away, and we were in the house over there, you know. And he said, you know, he goes, we're sitting around, you know, and they'd taken her body away, you know, and we're pretty quiet, you know, and really don't know, you know, what do you do now, right? What do you do now? And he said, can I come spend a night with you tonight? That's exactly.
He knew.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It was super. But we ordered pizza, made the best of that evening. Kids were with me. And that's just one example of watching like that thing go. That's actually that's the right answer right there. And
my
you had
mother,
it right off
she
the bat.
did. I mean, well, it goes on into being my mom too. But I look at it, and anyway, she was just good. She was good to me. She was good to Joshua. You know, she helped me. She taught me right from jump. I mean, my mother, I learned so much from her and as for motherhood, for being an independent woman. And I will say sometimes I share that, I mean, that in itself is a beautiful thing. However, that has hindered me a lot, the independency. Now, having said that, you heard me talk about the dependency on a man or whatever, and I used to think that was some hocus pocus, you know, like blah blah blah, you know, like the guys you'll pick and the absent father. You know, my daddy was around some. You know, everybody's got different views on that. This is my story. I mean, later on, my dad and I hung out probably more as I got older than I was when I was a kid. It was more like a friend thing. And I'll always say my dad did the best he could with what he had as well. And but I do believe after doing the work, after peeling the layers back, I didn't have my dad. You know what I mean? Emotionally, physically, and stuff like that. And so anyway, how can I be so independent but so dependent on a man? I always like to share this because maybe somebody will hear this, or maybe I need to hear it again. I never could understand why, just because I learned to, hate strong, but suitable. I hated y'all. I had learned because of all that pain, from that young age. I mean, I just jumped right, I told you, senior summer into all that, willingly, by the way, willingly, I'll say it again. And it was like, how could I hate y'all but need you so bad? And I never understood that until a while after I got into, recovery. I mean, there was a lot to it. Well, I started partying real hard. I started running real hard. Just trying to kill it. Just trying to kill all that pain, kill all them secrets that I had never talked to nobody about. They all just accumulated. Nobody. I didn't have a sit-down talk with mama. I didn't have a sit-down talk with sister. I didn't have a sit-down talk with girlfriend or the guy like brother friends, Most of them knew what was going on anyway. It wasn't a big secret if you was around, And I mean, I could always say I learned this when I got sober at a young age in my sobriety. I mean, in early sobriety was what I mean by young age. It got worse. You could always just sum it up, man. It just got worse. I just did more. What I just told you, I did more of the same. I'd run, meet a guy, don't take care of yourself, make really bad choices, hurt people. Yeah, that stung. Hurt people. Hurt myself. And I'm glad I said that because I forget how bad I hurt myself. And I'm glad that still gets me like it does, because when I start forgetting to take care of me, that probably means I'm taking care of somebody else more than I'm taking care of me. And the deep rooted codependency, which I haven't heard myself use that word yet, but found that out about me too. And I start compromising a lot, and I start what's the word I want to look like? I start bending, I start giving, and I know where I'm going with it. It leads me to incomprehensible demoralization, is what it all leads me to. When I start crossing all them lines and breaking them principles and all that stuff, and self-destruction. And so, that's real important to me, and I'm glad that came up, Dan, because I mean, there ain't no shame in my game. My stuff's hard sober, sometimes, and it's taken a long way. But I talk a lot about relationships in my story too. I've known that. I've had a lot of people come to me about that. I've had a lot of people come to me about relationships with their mother, and I've had a lot of people come to me for help on the man thing. The relationship thing. I mean, I can grin about it. We can laugh about it. But I'm telling you, it wasn't funny then. But it took what it took, and I would the insanity. Yes. Doing the same thing over, expecting different results over and over. And I know I'm not the only one. I know, I almost want to say we do like the opposite of whatever. Why would somebody, if it was like this, and it was like this, and you're like this, and they're like this, and then you split up, and then you go back because something changed. And I learned this in some recovery meetings. It's like there's really, I'm not saying reconciliation can't be met, but there's really most of the times a slim chance in the remarriages and the this and the that, and
That kind of stuff is almost like a progression kind of thing too.
Yes.
That same thing where
There's a lot of
even
stuff
though you
in
put
there.
it down for a little bit, when you pick it back up, it's right where it was or worse.
because how healthy do you got to be?
Yeah.
Both parties to try to, in my experience, that's what I have, and I see a lot of others, and I hear them share it. Most of the time, they're just not capable.
Yeah.
It doesn't make anybody bad or good.
Nope.
They're just not capable to come together with that. And
Right.
but I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna give everything I got, and that's what I would do. I met the next guy, or there was always a guy, but I just drank. And I just drugged, and I was a party girl. It was fun for a long time,
It was.
wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah. I mean, I had a blast for a long time, and it was a hell of a run, and I really didn't have too many consequences. I had a big old, I talked about those DUIs when I was 15, 16, 19, and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then, bam, I went I guess almost 20. Well, it was 19 years till I got another. I remember it was 19 years before I got another DUI. And
What
I
a
had that.
stretch.
Yeah, I know I did, and I just kind of blew that one off too. I mean, that was just like a fluke.
Yeah, because if it's
mean,
long,
yeah,
you can't be that bad.
Yeah, and that's the thing. The lawyer said, "Have you ever had any other ones?" And I told him no. Because I thought they tricked me into thinking them other ones was off my record because I was young. And then the lawyer was like, "We got off to a bad start." Like, what do you mean? He said, "You told me this was your first DUI." I said, "I thought them other. They told me them others was gone." He said, "They're never gone."
Liars.
Yeah. But I did. I had it, and it was a blast. And it gets a little funny, because it was a lot of fun for a while. Until it wasn't anymore. And I don't really know what happened, why it all of a sudden, it quit working for me. It quit working for me. Wasn't my consequences weren't a result of it quit working for me. It was more of a self-imposed thing where I just melted down.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get it just wasn't any fun anymore. Drinking did not make me fun.
I mean, when I think about it, how misconstrued is it? Even when I thought it was fun,
Yeah.
because I was listening to you talk, and I was trying to be really present, listening to you talk, and this thing went through my mind like this little time frame. Like, okay, this was fun.
Yeah,
But then it couldn't have been fun because there was crazy stuff happening in that.
Whether that's a skewed
What's your definition
vision
of
of
fun?
it, I mean, there were a lot of fun moments. I mean, certainly the hangovers and the hurting
Lord.
people and the trying to reconcile. Try to keep my marriage intact throughout that time, which I actually did. For the longest time. Hell, I was getting sober when it ended.
Pulling it off.
But
Wow.
yes, but it was just a lot. So yeah, I guess it's that euphoric recall kind of deal. I want to remember the fun nights, the trips to Bristol and the times at the lake, and those things. I forget all about that morning the next day when I could not fucking move.
Oh my gosh!
Because my head pounded so damn bad that I just would
never-
have liked to have crawled
I'll
underneath the
never
tire and
drink
let
that
somebody
again.
run over my head just to make it stop hurting. So yeah.
Little control. I can remember having control. Let's talk about that for a second. I remember having control, so I thought, okay, it doesn't matter whether I really had it or whether I really didn't. I did control it at the time. Okay, it being the need to drink, the need to get messed up, the need to drink. I went way past the need to drink. After a while, I didn't know it was oblivion. I didn't know it was drink to get slammed. I was that person, and I mean, I thought it was something cool back then. No, what it did is just led me a little further, a little deeper, with the ability to drink and drink and drink a lot. I mean, a lot, So it'd be a joke. Oh, she's drinking you under the table or whatever, but it wasn't a joke at the end. It really wasn't. I didn't pass out. I didn't, I was the last person up, and and the only reason I talk about that is I don't, it just seems like sometimes I hear other people tell their stories, and it's kind of like, well, maybe, and I want to put if in there, and I know how I feel about the word if, but if I didn't drink like that, then blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? That's not the way it was. And I drank like I drank it. I am who I am. And every bit of it had to happen. And just a lot more trauma. Trauma's a good word, 'cause that's what happened. By this time, the kiddo, is growing. I didn't tell you. This part's important because I got back with, see, I told you. I got back with Joshua's daddy on down the road after I moved to Scottsburg for a little while, and I moved to Crothersville. My dad lived up there, and I was dog sitting, and I ended up moving up there, and man, it was on, and I worked at a bar, and nightlife was cool, and it was just on, and woohoo, yeehaw, right? I had went to jail in there and copped some charge, a DUI thing or something, but anyway, one day he popped back up in my life, and we just kind of started hanging out, and I mean, it just happened. And the only reason I kind of snicker about it, because when you look at it, it was like, what? Yeah. I mean, who even paused for a minute to even, I don't know if we paused. I didn't pause. We dive right in is what I hear most time. And he's hanging out with me and these girls I lived with who, honestly, trying not to take their inventory, they were doing what I was doing when I got here being recovery. I mean, at that time. And I was, in my 20s or something. And so we ended up hanging out and stuff. And I got pregnant. I always talk about that because, I just didn't take care of myself. You know what I mean? And most women, I don't know, you go get on the pill, you take care of yourself, you do something, and you're going to tomorrow, and you're working, and you're partying, and you're hanging out, and by gosh, here we are, and then I got pregnant, and it was a derby weekend. I moved, I put in my notice or whatever, and I moved to Jeff. We were staying at his mom's, and I was about 5 months pregnant or so, and we moved to Jeff, and I had Noah. I had my youngest boy, and I told you that their daddy was a twin, and actually their daddy's brother's wife Bridget and I had our kiddos on the same day.
Really?
And we weren't in the same hospital. I was over in Louisville and she was at Floyd.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that was cool. They wrote an article about her or something. It was pretty neat. And Daddy was out of town painting on the job, and I can remember what I felt like that. I was off on the pregnancy. Imagine that. I didn't. I'm really trying not to pretty this up or anything, But I didn't go to the doctor the whole time, and I didn't have a doctor. I pretty much just. I helped Lois out and stayed around the house, and Mark worked or did his thing or whatever he was doing at the time, and it was I can remember asking him to marry me. To marry, or did he ask something? But I can remember where I'm going with this. He told me one night, he said, you're doing the very thing you left me over. And I was like, that always sticks in my head. And I was like, okay, whatever. I kind of had an attitude by this time. I'd owned a little power or whatever you call that, whatever that looked like at the time. I mouthed off a little more, and it got me in trouble. My mouth got me in a lot of trouble, always has. And I understand that a little bit more today. When I say in trouble, I don't believe you should be with anybody that you really have to... I don't want to say pick and choose. We all got to choose the way we, talk to each other. But I really had to pick and choose, the way I talked. And, I didn't really care after a little bit. But once again, I stopped drinking. I didn't drink during the pregnancy. I didn't carry on, or whatever. And I had Noah. And as far as I can remember, 2 months, he was about 2 months old, I left. It had gotten that bad, that quick. And we know what that quick, that bad means, but I'm telling you, it was just like a blink of the eye, and I was I was in a mess, and I left, and it was like a picture, it was always a fight or something, and I didn't have no place to go. And somewhere along the line, I ended up at the sister-in-law's, his brother's house, and I stayed there with the boys for a little bit, and I had to go. I mean, I don't know if you've ever lived with anybody or anything. I've been on both ends of that. People live with me, and I've lived with people over my life, and it just ain't cool after a while. Stuff happens, and here I'm sure it caused probably some stuff with the brother, or whatever, and I didn't have any place to go. I remember going to a payphone and calling my mom, and after. Let's don't forget this part. After I went knocking on the Haven House door with 2 kids, homeless, and they had a 6-month waiting list, and I have nowhere to go. And then I swear, Dan, I don't ever want to forget that. I don't even know where maybe I had some money from watching her kids while she worked, but I used a pay phone, and I called my mom, and whatever, I ended up there. I ended up there with the 2 boys, and I stayed there again. And this mother that I talked so badly about and thought was just so, but she accepted me back in her house again, and me and them boys. And I ended up getting an apartment in the housing. And I had my first apartment with me and them kids, and I didn't know what to do, and I was scared to death, and because I wasn't with anybody. I wasn't with a man. I wasn't dependent on a man. And I did that for a while. I did that successfully. I picked up right where I left off. The kids grow. They go to babysitters. You go to the bar. I love bars, by the way. I love music. I love to shoot pool. I love attention. Let's just keep it all the way real. I mean, I just loved it. I don't know. I just, staying home wasn't really my gig. And kids spent time at sitters, a lot of time at sitters, and I fed my need. And all that stuff that I talked about earlier just grew, manifested inside of me internally. All that emotional, stuff was just insane. And I went to jail probably a couple more times and gotten some pretty crazy stuff. Had a couple more relationships, you know what I mean? And I see it now. I was angry. I was very angry. I remember some girlfriends asking me, we'd go out and the guy would be all hot and everything. They'd be like, Debbie, you're such a bitch. Why you gotta be such a bitch? I mean, he's good looking. I'd be like, who cares? I went there to drink and to dance and to get away. I didn't go there to find a guy, but I always found one. I mean, I'm not saying I went home with a guy every night, nothing like that, but no, because I'm the one, if I was attracted to you, we ended up hanging out, we ended up together. I hear that a lot about us too sometimes in our relationships, but so anyway, just more of the same. And I had been ordered some meetings, some AA meetings or whatever they were. They sent you to through the courthouse or diversion routes or whatever all that was called. I've been introduced to that, actually way back. And you appease people, you go to reviews, you pay fines, you do that for what seems like forever. That's my story. And, I'd get in trouble. I got some PIs and I get DUIs. And then I figured out that the PI was cheaper. I mean, that's nuts. Who thinks like that? And then, I'm hanging at the bars and I'm doing the kids. I used to pride myself, Dan, on, I wouldn't bring the guys around the house and stuff, and I swear I tried to be...
Pat on the back.
Yeah, a little pat on the back. You try to give them, what's the 4 food groups? It doesn't matter if it was ravioli and applesauce or, Little Debbie oatmeal cake or something, but... And I say that because, I have to remember that I really was trying to do the best I can. I knew who and what I was a little bit. I never thought that, oh my gosh, I think I'm a alcoholic or a drug addict. That never crossed my mind. I was usually more focused on paying attention to you. You was the guy in my life, usually. You usually had a problem. But now I understand that. Now that makes perfect sense to me, but I didn't know that. I had to be taught that, and then I met a guy at a bar, and we became really good friends, and we hung out good, and we shot pool good, and we laughed good, and we drank good. And we ended up hooking up, and his name was Charlie, and we started dating and hanging out and kind of staying with each other. I think I lived with my dad a little bit in here somewhere in the mix, and by this time, man, I was full blown. I was full blown. But all I could do was focus on them because, like, Lord, they're going in and out of jail. The kids or the boys are growing up. They done, for whatever reason, been introduced to the system and to probation because they're running amok. It's a family disease, I'm reminded. And I'm so thankful that I heard that, I was told that, I heard that, and I remember that. And I pass that on as well when we think we're not hurting anybody else. So we hooked up, and I got pregnant. Yeah, I told you things, just insanity, just more of the same. I sure didn't get better at taking care of myself, Matter of fact, I got worser, the myself, I had no self really by this time, really. And there was flags, you know about flags, you just push them down, what flag? Yeah. Yeah, when you drank like we drank, and see, when I tell my story, I try hard not to focus on the people. I can call him an alcoholic because he was a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. He was a, Charlie passed away a couple years ago, and Katie's daddy, and it just wouldn't, it wasn't good. It really just, I love him as a person, but it just really, now looking at it, just never really was, the substance of it. Just, it was toxic, and we did, I hate to keep saying that, the best we could, but, when you're just fussing.
There's times and you're basically just bumping through life trying to figure out what's the next move,
Yeah.
and that's it's the kind of the same thing we say when this stuff blocks us from the sunlight of the spirit. It blocks a lot more than that. It blocks us from each other. It puts there's a little thing about it, dissolves everything, the ultimate solvent or something, and when that's on you, and
gone.
I'm working with a guy, or not working, talking to a guy, and he calls me every once in a while, and it's just a mess. His life's a mess, he's got a hurt foot, his girlfriend won't talk to him, the work is pissed off at him, and all this, but he don't know what the problem is. He's just got to run a bad luck.
I get it. We can laugh, yeah. And the reason I'm laughing is because I do know.
I said, man, are you drinking? Well, of course. Yeah. Dude,
but that's not it. You don't understand, Dan. That ain't got nothing to do with nothing.
All the rest of the shit wasn't happening, and that wouldn't be a problem. But
and
we just don't see it. You just don't. You can't. It's got you. That's part of this cunning, baffling.
It had me.
Right? It just got you.
It had me. And all I could do was just drown it. Just try to kill all that pain, kill all that reality is a good word. What reality? My reality was pretty distorted. Really, at one point, I accepted that's how I was supposed to live. Mm-hmm. The chaos, the drama, the trauma, the tragedy, the self-sacrificing, the abuse on both parts, because you don't treat people right. Yeah. Not the way we was living. I don't know how anybody else lives, but when you drink and carried on like we did, you don't have to leave with kids. And kids don't want to call the law, if things are cool, and stuff like that. And then I often share, and I'm not proud of it. I'm not, but I need to. At one point, everybody was going to jail. Somebody was going. Something was probation, and they're there, and domestic or whatever, and it was just like nuts, and I wanted it to stop. I wanted out of it. After a while, I can remember I was like, I don't know why. Because I think I'm sugarcoating a little bit again, honestly. After a while, it wasn't safe. And you know how we hear, or I hear, I don't know if y'all have heard, but the holding each other hostage thing?
Yeah.
Well, that's what was up. But I always thought I was the hostage. And I was. But I never looked at it from another angle. Like I did the same.
Yeah.
I played a victim the whole time. I held them hostage. I had to have that in my life, you know, and you know, I don't know. There were so many signs, and I always believed in a higher power. I always believed in something greater than me, and I would pray, you know. And I remember one night I was praying, it's like, just keep us safe. And it was a terrible night. You know, it wasn't a good night. And then I can remember getting a call, and I heard that Charlie had went to jail, and I can remember specifically thinking, ain't really what I meant by safe, but okay. You know what I mean? And so, you know, that finally, we tried to get sober together. He did a little time in jail, and man, you know, I was on a run. I was on a good one. Every breath, I just wanted to drink. You know, I was trying to take care of the kids. I always kept a job. You know, I could function, you know, physically. I'd always going to work, but, you know, I was just a basket case. And one night, I remember seeing this woman on this commercial on the TV. I can see it just like it's there, sitting here talking to you. She was a middle-aged woman. She had, like, kind of dirty blonde hair. Excuse me. She was crying. Her mascara was all smeared on her eyes like a raccoon. And she was crying, and it was a commercial for Charter. And they were talking about uncontrolled. Do you have uncontrollable crying? And she was standing in like a doorway. And it reminded me of my bathroom. And I can remember being in my bathroom before thinking, nobody probably even cared if I didn't come out. You know, and I thought about that woman. And my girlfriend told me that I had called her, and I found a notebook that I had wrote. And it pretty much said that I think I'd get some help if I could. I don't even know what that meant, really, or whatever. And I was drunk, and it was all going downhill, this thing. And I think what I meant by that is, you know, my mother, I never asked her, so I can't speak for her. I need to say that. But my mother was a hard-working woman. She wasn't an enabling woman. You know, I'll put that out there. She wasn't a babysitting grandma. The whole time I lived with her, I was expected to step up and do what I needed to do, you know. And the truth is, I think I felt so much guilt from going back to her, and she helped me so much that I never did. And she wasn't going to watch them so I could go out. That was, you know, I don't think she even had to say that. So I think my brain told me that I didn't have any help. I didn't have anybody watch the kids. But I could remember, or I wouldn't be talking about that commercial. And I wouldn't be trying to put all that together. But I remember thinking something, and I also remember thinking that I didn't want to be in that relationship anymore. But we were trying to, then when we tried to get sober, things start changing. You know, for one, your mind clears up a little bit, the fog lifts a little bit. And what happened for me, and I hear other people share their experience, strength and hope with me, is the emotions aren't numbed or masked or whatever. Everything's raw, and I didn't feel. I knew it just wasn't right. I didn't need to be in it. I didn't want to be in it. I didn't love the person like I feel like I needed to. I didn't say shoulda. Like I needed to be in it, and I didn't know what to do about it. I was tripped up. I had never been here. I always just stayed. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? So, and then when you got messages in your head like, well, she's going to be like the boys' dad. I mean, you know, they read their dad, you know, so make it work, make it work. Well, him started drinking, and I didn't start drinking. And so like 6 months into it, I didn't know what to do. I remember calling a friend in the program, oh my God, I think Charlie's at the bar. And I know they don't care, but Gordon was like, because he knows the story, and he's like, well, Debbie, if I thought it would do any good, I'd go down there and get him. Well, he knew more than I knew why he couldn't go down there, you know, and all I knew is that it was not good. And I think I made I never trusted. I would never trust again. And by this time, I'm doing some recovery meetings, and I finally give my number to a woman, and I told some secrets, that I talked to. So I think what I'm trying to say is I was moving my way towards, I don't want to make this about him. I was moving my way towards some recovery, like recovering, from a seemingly hopeless state of mind, body, and spirit is what y'all had to tell me was happening, because I didn't care about myself. Y'all told me that somewhere I started caring about myself enough that I needed help. I didn't know how to do it, and I started praying a lot more, and I was going to some meetings, and I was talking to people, and I was just hanging on to my ass, and the kids were still running amok. Just because mama put the little drinky down didn't mean everything was okay. Matter of fact, it got worse.
Right.
It got worse for me in sobriety. And I don't say it scare nobody off. I'm just telling you the truth, because, there's a lot more come down. It took me a long time to create the mess that I was in, be it self-imposed or not. Most of it, yes. So here I was. What am I going to do about it?
Right.
And I just hung on.
Unwinding to do, and like that other little thing, that whatever that little saying is about. Good thing about when you get your feelings back, and the bad thing, you get those feelings back. And I don't know what to do with feelings. I don't.
All I did was
only
cry,
have one
Dan.
thing.
I just cried. I cried all the time. I cried all the time. I got me a little gig down there at New Albany Token Club and worked at the counter and tried to make over easy eggs and just let people, some of them old guys that I'd met that'd been around, and people loved me. People loved me until I learned to love myself.
Right,
and that was just a really, really neat thing. And before I decided that I wanted out of that relationship, we had a big old house fire, Dan, and
wow.
We got burned out of our house, and it was 2 weeks before Christmas. I was pushing a year sober. It was like December, so, my sobriety's February, yeah. And we ended up staying in a hotel for a couple weeks, and I can remember walking down Market Street. Man, we was fussing. I mean, can't you imagine just the emotions and everything and all this? And I was like, and I can remember looking at all, there's some bars on Market. I'm looking at all my old watering hose and stuff and the lights, and I didn't want to drink. I was just like, wow, man. And I'm sure I said this prayer, and I went to New Albany Token Club, and I was sitting there. They were having a candlelight meeting or something, late, and I was talking to some people, and for the first time that I remember, I was open and honest. I put that person aside, because I've always protected everybody. You want to say nothing bad about them. You don't want to that I would compromise and put at risk me. I still didn't know how to take care of me. And I just put it out there. I was like, this is what's going on, and I really think that had a big thing to do. It was New Year's Eve, and we moved into an apartment in the housing, emergency housed on New Year's Eve, and that was New Year's Eve, and I think that was my step, and I may have confused this a little bit, but what happened, we moved in there, and then that's when he didn't stay sober, and I decided to stay sober. And what I really believe is the God of my understanding didn't catch my house on fire. The God of my understanding, it just so happens, you can believe what you want to believe, but I had a roof over me and them 3 kids' head. And you've heard enough to know I wasn't dependent on anybody. It was income-based. I didn't have to stay financially. I didn't have to, I was growing just enough, just a little bit. There was some light in there that physically, like with the house, the roof over my head, you couldn't tell me to go or whatever, and so I had a place for them children physically to be. I think emotionally and spiritually, I was feeding what I believe was already there. Whew. And was just so dead that it was coming alive, to build some kind of spiritual foundation on, because self-reliance I mean, check that out. What do you think about that? The insanity of self-reliance. I mean, you tried and tried and tried, and you fail and fail and fail. But it was a miracle. I mean, it's a miracle that I was just given enough to know, okay, first of all, this isn't going to work. You haven't drank. You don't trust that over here. This is going to go work. So my dad was fighting cancer. And a lot was going on, Dan. A lot was going on. And I want to share this, and I appreciate your patience and listening, because I'm telling you, you don't have to, my experience is you don't have to drink, man. You don't have to drug. You don't have to use. You don't have to feed whatever freaking addiction there is just to get through, I mean, I didn't know that, So this is what I want to say about that. My dad was up in Charleston at this hospital, and I was going to visit. He was dying. And I just kept showing up, and I just kept showing up, and I just kept going to meeting and all that stuff. I'm sure the youngest kid was running away from home, and I remember my little temporary sponsor, Vicky, be like, Debbie, if I'll take you go look for him if that's what you want to do. But I remember her telling me that God's got him right here, and she cupped her hands together, but I'll take it. I didn't go look for Noah that day. The truth was, I was embarrassed to tell her I didn't know where he was at, and he was probably about 13-ish. And Joshua, he's working and doing his thing, and they supported their mama. But I do want to say, when you're a parent and you get sober, the kids are happy you're sober. Don't get me wrong, but their life's changed. I mean, for one, I'd given my oldest son, Joshua, control. He was mom, he was dad, he was babysitter, you know what I'm saying? He was big brother, he was a lot of things. And that other one, I mean, I'm not saying Josh didn't too, but they had a pretty free reign in a way, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I mean, you just, okay, sure, whatever, bye-bye, sure, go stay over there. And they bucked me a little bit, So anyway, I didn't drink. And I just kept plugging along. And I went there to visit my dad, and we talked. He wasn't, I believe he was there by this point, and I told him I was going to be okay. I said, I'm okay. And you know what? We're okay. Just in case you're wondering if we're okay, I need you to know that, we're okay. Anything that, might you feel ill about. And I had my little talk with him so he could be freed up. And hospice told me a little bit about that. And so I went through that, and I went to people in recovery like I had been showed, like I had seen, and I talked to people about that, and I didn't have to drink. That was a big major thing, and I left that relationship with my little girl's dad the same week. And the only reason I know that, I found a 2-year planner when I was about 2 years sober, and I've played this little game with myself that I was going to start writing, like a little bit in a square I'm not a very good writer sometimes, and I found it 2 years sober or more, something like that, and it said March 5th, Daddy died. Pretty sad about that. And then on March the 9th, it said, shut the door on Charlie and I. Don't have much to say about that. And that's what I wrote, and that was in the same week. And I'm here to tell you, I grieved Charlie more than I grieved my daddy, because that's just all I had at that time. I mean, it took everything I had to step out of that. And I had plenty of support. I had a great big, my higher power is amazing, and I never had to drink. And I just I started being a sober mom. I wasn't always a good one. I met a guy. I'm telling you, fellas, no. No, really. I mean, all jokes aside, I was shared with you before we started about, I say God uses men in my life, teachers or whatever, but I pretty much, I I didn't get into a relationship. I pretty much dove into one right after that, and that was a 10-year sober relationship. And I don't have anything bad to say about that person. I learned a lot. We were good together. It was, whatever. I like to think both bring gifts to any relationship today. I learned that instead of being in a fetal position, saying "damn him," and I mean that's how I used to do things. That it just it was we went apart, and I stayed sober one day at a time through a lot of stuff. The kids grow up. You don't know what to do. I mean, there is no book on all that.
No, I was going to say one of the things I've shared on here a bunch of times, man. Once I started realizing what powerlessness was. It dawned on me that probably with kids is probably the biggest place where I have to come to grips with that powerlessness, because I do not have the control. Although I would like to think I got some like control over these little humans that are growing up.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I know. And these stories we hear in here, where people sit at the other side of this podcast table that have had beautiful upbringings with two married, parents married.
Yeah.
And they still sit at the end of this table to, the horriblest kind of things you could ever hear at the other end of the table.
I'm glad you brought that up. Don't matter where you come from.
Any difference at all,
Yeah.
and I know that just is in relationship to our disease and that kind of thing, so that just brings it to there. But, I giggle today, and I'm thankful to have this taught to me today. Is that I giggle today when people talk about trying to manage their kids, and they're going to make them, and I don't know what, and try to like form these little human beings into what these parents need the kid to be.
And you see it, and
for them.
Because then I was just getting ready to say, this is my story.
I need my kids to have good grades so it doesn't embarrass me. It doesn't have anything to do with really wanting them to do good grades.
I wish my kid would went to college because that's what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
For you. And I've learned in my sober life that the kid thing, talking about going back to how long I've been sober, you stay sober one day at a time for 20 years, a lot happens. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot happens. A lot happens to me, to you, the person, speaking, but a lot happens with the family. Mm-hmm. A lot happens, those children, there's a lot of healing. There's a lot of, there's just a lot of growing. There's a lot of forgiving. There's just so much. There's just a lot. And one of the hardest things I had to do is let them kids, within reason, be them kids. I had to let them, you can't push them over. Hey,
I have a little bit of responsibility to be some guardrails out here, I need to I can't promise I can be that guardrail, but I do have some responsibility to do that. I can't just take the guardrails off and just let them go anywhere. But I can't keep them on the line.
So the balance in there, you know what I mean? I remember one time, one of them told me, I think it was Joshua, they was like, "You're just not drinking." And I was like, "Well, where'd you hear that?"
Yeah, I hate when the kids
was I acting a fool? Was I losing my shit? What was I doing? But I will tell you an aha moment was, the don't cry over spilt milk. They spilt something on the table, on the kitchen table, and I didn't react. I don't know what y'all did. I've known to, angered, rage maybe even, depending on wherever you was at, and I could admit that I was wrong. And if all three of my kids were sitting here, they would tell you how profound that was when their mother admitted that she was wrong. That I just didn't have to push it. And just, it was just a beautiful thing too. And, they grew to be their own people, and I had a lot of stuff. Each one of them's got, they have a story, and Katie, Katie was 2 when I, got sober. So, everybody's like, well, she's really, she's blessed to have a sober mama. The boys used to tease her, Dan. They'd be like, well, we can tell you about back in the day, sis. You think you got it bad, to be hee-hee-ha-hawing over, dinner or at the house or whatever we'd be doing. But, really they wasn't kidding, and we would talk about that stuff. And I do own this part, and I'm glad this came to mind, that Yeah, Kate, she is fortunate to be sober, and sometimes it's humbling, and I'm a little modest about it. But they're like, and people know Katie. You spend time getting to know our kids when you know each other. I mean, I know enough about your family, your children,
Yeah, right.
and they're like, yeah, because she had a good teacher, and I'm like, I don't know about all that. I've taught her a lot of things that bother me too. You know, but for one, she's adult child of me and her daddy, right? So there's some stuff in there, but I always share that I had to own some stuff. This is my story. I had to get with some truths about me, and the truth is I did cause a lot of stuff. I am, even though you're two. I mean, I don't know how deep you want to go into it, but I have learned in some recovery that I carried her,
Yeah.
and she was two.
Right.
She seen a lot, she heard a lot, she felt a lot, a lot. I mean, it didn't matter what age you was. And then just some traits, maybe. And even when I was sober, doesn't necessarily mean I was making all the healthy, right decisions. And,
Yeah.
she's told me before. They get real with you sometimes. Be like, well, I've learned a lot from you, and some of it ain't so good. And you're like, okay, girl, all right. And you just kind of take a breath and suck it up and listen to what they have to say, And so, I know that I have forgiveness of self in my recovery and the step work. The step work was my saving grace. That moral inventory that I did, and I share with another human being and the God of my understanding, and I got out all them secrets, Dan. I got all them secrets out that a couple things nobody ever knew. And I was even asked, it was suggested, and that's what the sponsor told me. They're like, is there anything else? And we were sitting at my kitchen table, and there was something else. Nobody knew, besides one person. And I told her. And then I was successful. I'm not perfect, but I have been successful at not allowing, not harboring any of those secrets, those resentments. I've been fortunate enough, I feel, to that's been really important to me. I talk about the inner voice. I talk about my gut a lot, and I remember sharing that in meetings going way back for people that have a common bond. It's like I have to pay attention to that. I really believe, first of all, if I wouldn't have got rid of all that stuff, I wouldn't have given myself a very good chance, and every time that gut feeling come to me, be it I lied, I cheated, I stole, I'm resentful, did I wrong you, whatever, and I can justify in my mind, my head, my magnificent magnifying mind that it wasn't that bad or whatever. But when I share that, when I get rid of that on a continuous basis and pay attention to that nudge that I get, that still small voice that knows and tells me this is not okay. This is just me. I choose to live like that, and I swear I think it has, like a big, big part of who I am. And I don't have I've had plenty of reasons. I've had plenty of excuses to drink, since I've been sober. But I always try to go back to, to those principles of the 12 steps, to serve others, and all that. And I know for a fact that all helped me build the foundation, that spiritual foundation that I was taught about. Y'all shared it with me, to be able to handle life on life's terms when it comes at me. And it come at me, a lot. Like, I don't know about my share. I don't know what your share is, my share. I feel like I've had my share, But if you would have told me I could get through some things that I've gotten through without using, I would have never believed it. Sometimes, it's really neat. Sometimes I think about it, and I was reflecting back the other day, and I'm like, what has been some significant parts of my sobriety. We were talking about the teachers and the teaching pieces, and they stand out in my mind who and what they are. I call them. I've always called them transitions or shifts. I refer, and I can remember my sponsor told me, she's like, I've heard you speak on that before. You feel it. I can feel it. I don't know how to describe it. You just know something's coming down the pike, and for me, I'm just thankful that I paid attention to all of it. I mean, I pray up. I do some meditation. I do some step work. I'm like, God, give me what I need, blah, blah, blah. I follow up my recovery. I work with others the best I can. So if I'm doing all these things and I'm praying about all these things and then they're given to me and I'll be like, nah, no thanks. You know what I mean? And I don't keep paying attention to it and I don't keep doing it. I mean, I don't know. I may not be sober. I don't know. So why would I choose to do anything any different?
You get to, you have those things where you've got these life things come at you, and you make it, right? And you look back and sometimes maybe it was a time, maybe you thought about drinking and didn't. And then maybe sometimes you made through this one and you look back and you go, damn, I don't even really remember thinking that's an option. But every time one of those happens, you're hanging more like insurance in your recovery belt, so then you build it up and you build it up.
Do you remember when things happen, like the first thing, whatever that was, be it a relationship, be it a kid thing, be it a job, and I would start, it was like gauging exactly what you're talking about. I'd be like, well, I didn't drink over that.
Yeah.
I broke up, the kid ran away from home,
I joke around a little bit about like people trying to get sober during this pandemic thing, because
yes,
it's tough right now.
I've been speaking on that.
And
well,
if
they
you
got
get
a
sober
story.
now, it's like, oh, you don't drink over at spilled milk now, buddy, because you got sober when it was fucking hard to get sober.
I was just telling a friend, I'm like, man, they stay sober. I pray they stay. They're gonna have a story. They're gonna have an extra chapter.
They'll be sitting at the pub and they'll say, well, I got sober.
Man, y'all ain't gonna believe this. Isn't that cool though?
Yeah. And that goes for this too. Period. I've been down this Joseph Campbell rabbit hole thing that talks about the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. And that's what our whole story is this cycle of these journeys where we have some struggle, we have something to go through, we man up, we woman up, man up, whatever, put on our God armor, we walk through it with the help of our friends, and we get vulnerable and we tell people that it's happening. And because they can't help you if you don't tell them.
We get vulnerable.
And we do that. Yeah, we walk through it, and we're stronger on the other side when we make it. We make it. We can make it. Now, some people don't, and I don't really know what that is for whatever reason, if they don't make it, their sobriety doesn't survive, they don't survive, and that's just part of this cycle. But, from my standpoint, I feel like my job today is to make it through whatever the next thing is.
Yeah.
So then and then what the completion of the cycle is to get on the other side of that, because somebody back there is going to need what I went through. And now my job is to hand that back to them and say, hey.
Oh my gosh, I've heard that. I
did that. Let me help you through here. And that's really the basis of our recovery cycle, right? That's our 12-step thing in a nutshell, is to do it and then hand it back, But we also, that's just a spot in our life that we did that, right? You've got a huge thing that you haven't mentioned.
I know
that you walked through, and I watch it. And it was tough as hell. It was fucking hard. I don't know. There's nothing. I really cannot come up with something in my life that is hard as that.
Honestly, I was
through that, and I know it's still painful at some level, but now, I always had to go. Because there's a number of times that I've done something, I watch exactly that happen, to where I have walked through something, and lo and behold, it ain't too long, and somebody comes up with that problem, and I can say, I did that too. I was there.
Well, when we were when you shared the part about, I don't know, my mind's kind of going all over the place, but it's everything you're talking about, and I'm chiming in, and I'm like, that first thing, whatever it was, and that happened, you were like, wow, man, I didn't want to drink. I might have wanted to do a lot, I mean, and I don't try to be funny. I might want to slap you. I might want to drive my car into a tree. Even I don't know if that actually happened. Like I remember one time giving a guy was just so angry. I was like, ooh, you know.
I broke some shit. I've done some things where I broke, you know, and then get remorseful over that because now I'm broke.
Yeah, because I'm just not supposed to be acting like that.
And you know, it's some dumbass that say, you know, at least you didn't drink. You know, I'm like,
oh yeah, okay.
But you know, I broke my freaking mom's vase, and she's, you know, or whatever. You know?
I know.
And they go,
well, then those things, those in the timeline, you just keep going, and then it's another thing, and then that thing's a little more tragic, and then that thing, and I was approaching, and then it's like that thing, and you know, I try not to be, you know, really, the truth is sometimes I think I'm reluctant because when I talk about my sobriety, my early sobriety was rough. I mean, I hear about some pink clouds and all this stuff, and it might have been a hot minute, but it was rough. There was a lot to mess to, you know, come up out of, and also I've had a lot of grief. You know, my dad died about a year sober. My oldest son had twins, and Joshua and Isaiah, and one was born with a big long word. It was an intestinal thing. He was just fine, and he lived about 2 weeks. And Isaiah, Joshua had a heart problem. He lived about a month. And I can remember a lot, Dan. I don't remember wanting to drink. I don't remember saying, well, if I smoked a joint, this would be okay. I don't remember thinking, damn, I could use a line of cocaine to stay up another night. You know, I mean, and when you got that kind of trauma going on in a family and emotion stuff, I mean, this is what's happening in my story. Stuff is going on. People are going nuts, and because there's some serious stuff, you know, and I can remember people in recovery were at the hospital.
Right.
You know what I mean? I can remember, and people in recovery were at funeral homes, and you know they didn't make it. And I was a sober mom for that kid and for the family, and you know, and then you go on, you stay sober, and good things happen too. I mean, you know, I'm in a relationship. I learned to ride a motorcycle, and I want to speak on that because that's a big deal. I understand that's a material, physical possession, but I also understand the God of my understanding gave me that.
Yeah, we're allowed those things.
That's right. And
I ain't so spiritual. I don't like my toys.
That's right. I don't know, especially when your toy helps.
Right.
You know, me get so much closer. Right. The intimate relationship, you know, with the God of my understanding.
Totally get that completely.
And so that,
matter
you
of
know,
fact, I think it's actually vital. I think it's not like optional.
Oh yeah.
If you're not finding something that does that for you, you're sold short. You're selling yourself short. And there is something that does that for you. I don't care who you are.
Oh, yeah, there is. There is.
You might have a little trouble finding it.
I was okay by the river and walking in the woods and doing whatever, but then when I got to get there, and I mean, sometimes I just don't want to stop. Sometimes I just keep twisting the throttle and I keep going, and I have that.
Yep.
I have that choice today that was given to me, a direct result of staying sober.
Right.
And, creating a relationship with God and my understanding, right? So, I stay sober and everything, and I'm like, I get to be this mom, I get to be this grandma, I get to be this friend, just this better person. And sometimes, Dane, I can remember thinking, and I still do it, it's like, that who am I?
Yeah.
I did a meditation on that one time, and it's like, sometimes it just baffles me, kind of. It's almost like weird, and if it sounds weird, it's because it is weird. It's like, who is this chick? I mean, and really, I noticed when it was happening some years ago, I was really going back to where I left off, to who I was, my true authentic self in the beginning, who had been like, whoo, so buried.
Yeah.
And then, so the next things come down the pike. I mean, I've lost jobs, I've been this, I've been that, but when my oldest son, Joshua, was diagnosed with the cancer, I was like, ooh, hang on. And I don't know. It's never really, you don't really run and skip at the opportunity to just dive into Joshua's cancer. Oh my gosh, and here's Mother's Day's here, and all this, and I knew this all was on time. I knew it was all on time, and all these memories are coming on Facebook and all this stuff. So anyway, on one Labor Day weekend down at the family camp, Joshua told me that this big tumor he had on his leg was cancerous and blah, blah, blah. And the blah, blah, blah part would be that he was going to start some radiation and do some stuff. And he had planned some back surgery. He had trouble with his back, for a couple of years, just fighting it and all that. And I was like, wow, okay, hang on, right? And he did that radiation, and he had ignored that tumor for a long time. It doesn't matter why. Maybe insurance, maybe he just didn't take care of himself. Real good. I don't know, but so the that started working, and then he had some back surgery. It went really well, and he felt really good, and he started having a problem with his legs, and he started falling and all this stuff, and come to find out, after the last fall, he went to the hospital and they found cancer, a big old tumor up on I don't know, C something 3 or something, and it was wrapped in and around his spine, and it was a type of sarcoma. It was terminal, and he fought that. The reason he was falling, because it was paralyzing him. Mm-hmm. And it did paralyze him. I can remember going to the hospital one time, and he couldn't wait to show me. He moved his leg up, and that was the last time that happened. So he was fighting cancer, and he was paralyzed from the waist down. And what did I do? How did I do it? With a lot of help. A lot of help from the relationship of that God that I had worked on, and that spiritual foundation we hear so much about, and a whole lot of recovery family, a whole lot of it was terrible. I can't even I gotta honor him. I can't even sugarcoat that. It was all horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I was very, very I went in survival mode. I had a lot of help from a couple friends who, from wandering in the field, or, and they share experience, strength, and hope. And I had joined a life group at the church I was going to, and I didn't mean to. It was kind of accidental, and I was going to get in a cancer support group. It had been suggested strongly, and I ended up getting in this woman's group. And I knew inside of me, I needed... my recovery was cool, but something in me, Dan, knew that it wasn't going to be enough. I don't even know how to describe it. I just need my relationship with God and everything to be... It wasn't like oh, shit, I need God. My son's dying. It wasn't like that. I mean, because...
Nudges, like you were talking about earlier, just that little nudge.
Oh, it really was. I mean, they were like talking about it, and the church was like, "Well, go out to the living room, and and I thought, man, I ain't feeling connected. I just need to. I intuitively knew to do something more, and I was burning my sponsor's ear up, and then I feel guilty about that because let's just be frank. It's hard to talk to somebody about death, and that's what I needed to do. Yeah. I knew I needed to, and I would tell them, "Are you okay with this? I need to talk about this. This is happening," and
it is, and stuff. And in people's defense, it's tough to hear about.
I don't know if I could have done it. I don't know how they done it.
Yeah, I can't. That's not something I have much experience with. And hearing that and.
Then I'd try to get rid of the guilt, and then I'd have to talk about some more, and then all this stuff was going on in the middle. The dynamics of everything was just off the chain, and I was trying to take care and be mom and be nurse, and and he has a sister and a brother, and kids, and I just suited up and showed up, and small story short, he lost the battle. He lost the battle. And I was, I can remember sitting there, I cussed. You know, God, my understanding knows Deb pretty good. You know, I can remember just sitting there, Dan, and I was having my hands out, and I was like, is this fucking it? Is this all he gets? This is it? You know? And he could handle Deb. You know? That was cool, you know, and you know, I don't want to apologize. I feel like I might be kind of morbid or whatever, but it was the most beautiful experience. The most beautiful spiritual experience. I was in the room when it happened, when he took his last breath. He believed Pastor Ernie was coming, and he got to where he got to where he needed to be. Not where I thought he needed to be, or anybody else needed to be. And I did that sober.
Yeah.
Our family did that, you know. No matter what happened here, there, and a lot happened. But I lost me in there. You know, I didn't just lose my son. I'm a changed woman. I know I am. And y'all may see things, people who know me, see things that I don't see. And, but just my recovery world, you know, honestly, I couldn't go to meetings. I couldn't sit. I couldn't stay. I couldn't talk to you. I couldn't be approached. And I learned a lot about grief. I went to a grief share. And people were telling me, oh, well, God's going to use you, Debbie. You're going to be able to help somebody. I said, well, damn, wasn't I doing okay before that?
Yeah, what was I doing before?
You know, well, that wasn't sufficient, you know. And, yeah, I mean, I use humor in it, you know. And
But yeah, that's...
I just, the whole time, I just say thank you. A woman in recovery taught me that. And how do you say thank you for something like that? I'm not saying I meant it. I'm not saying I meant it when I started saying it, but I just started saying thank you for the time. I mean, you know, we don't know how old we're all here anyway, and you take a lot for granted. And then I worked on me some more, and finally I went to some meetings. Different things were happening in my life. I got involved in an REC, and I went to jail, and I was asked to give a talk on the prodigal. Which I still think is really ironic, you know, and I used to make little puns about being a prodigal daughter or something, you know, and I got to go share that, and I was in the middle of that grief share, and a couple of people suggested it might have been a little too much. It was heavy. It's a lot of heavy stuff, you know, but I came out of it okay as far as, you know, staying sober, and I'm healing. I've learned how to live. I'm learning. I said learned, it's not done. I have learned up to this point how to live, you know, and to go on. And life's different. And I'm, you know, I have two earthly, whatever you want to call them, kids that, you know, I have to remember that I'm not the only one that lost Joshua. You know, he has grandchildren that I get to, you know, see and keep in touch with. And he has siblings, and you know, where's my part, Dan? What am I to do? What is God wants me to serve? And I'm in the middle of this series right now in my women's group, and it's called Dangerous Prayers. And you know, yeah, I just can't even believe where it's all at right now. And it's like, you know, what is it? Oh my gosh. So, you know, it's hard to say a prayer like break me. But like I was telling the women, I was trying to share it. It's really my recovery story. It all in lines to me. It all jives together. And I'm like, I prayed that prayer before. That's not new to me. You know, did I really say break me, God? You know, well, when you surrender and the gift of desperation, and you know what we know, then yeah, you really are. And then send me where we're at now. And the last thing one of the women told me before, because I asked them, I said, I'm going over to a friend's, I'm going to do this podcast on recovery. And maybe if y'all, you know, keep me in your thoughts and say a couple of little prayers out, throw them out there for me, that'd be really cool. And the first thing one of them said is, you know, you're being sent. And I swear I didn't. I'm like, oh, well, you know, okay. If nothing else, it's good for me. I haven't shared anything in a little while, and And really, life is good. You know, there's a song, Mercy Me sings it, and it's called Even If, and it was like my mantra that whole time, and it has been, no matter what. I knew that the God of my understanding could reach in there and fix it all, you know. But that was my will. That was my plan, you know. And, you know, the great big picture, really the whole thing's just, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sad and I get in a lot of grief and I get in a lot of weird spots, you know, sometimes, and you don't even know what's going on, you're learning, but really, you know, life is good. And at the end of the day, you know, the reason I brought the song up is because my goal was to be able to say it as well with my soul. And in the song, he doesn't say it in the beginning, and at the end he does, you know, and all because he had a bad day is why he wrote the song, and his son had some stuff. But I was like, you know, it really is well with my soul. That don't mean my heart's not broke, you know, and all that, but life is good, you know, no matter what, Dan, life is good. And I made myself kind of almost start saying that whether I believe it or not for a while, because people are like, how do you do it? I don't understand how you do it. I don't either, but there was people I knew, God put them in front of me. That's what's been happening. I go on a motorcycle smack up in Tennessee that I rode my motorcycle by myself, and I was at a breakfast table, and 3 of the women sitting around me I've never met in my life had lost their child. Yeah. You know, things like that, and people come in front of you and they share their experience, strength, and hope, just like you were talking about.
Yeah. You know, but there's also that, like, you took some action that didn't seem to be, you know, it really didn't have nothing to do. You went on this trip and then you landed there, right? So
it was unbelievable.
Behind it, you know, I can lay. The one thing I've learned I can't do is like lay up for a long period of time. I have to like keep beating feet, you know, whatever that is. I gotta stay. No, I wouldn't. Sometimes it's the worst. The last thing I want to do is go out and be around, and that action puts you in a position.
I'd be one foot in and one foot out.
Yeah, where you're sitting in Tennessee with women who have also lost.
And the only reason I ended up there, well, it was men and women, but the only reason I ended up there, it was a recovery thing, is because I went to a recovery convention, and I went up and thanked the dude who shared, whose story happened to be he lost his son 3 days before Joshua, my son died. Wow. And there were so many parallels, I couldn't even believe. I wasn't even going to go. I couldn't get my foot out the door, Dan. I could not.
Wow.
And a friend in recovery is like, well, go, you know, I'll pay your way. I was like, it's not about that. I was like, you know, because I'm like, well, I don't want to go for the whole weekend. And I was going on. And I ran into that speaker that I'd been at, I was at the quarterly, but at the convention I ran into him going around the hallway up to the, what they call that, the hospitality room. And I ran into the same guy, and they had told me about that. So and it just keeps happening. That's what happens in my life.
Right, me too. Exactly.
Over and over. I mean, you know, and over. And about the time you're like,
coincidences that,
you're scratching your head and you're thinking, wow.
Well, it's, you know, and now and again, you know, sometimes, like I was telling you about that men's out there, sometimes I know what's happening too. And that's an awareness thing that sometimes when mine higher powers, like, is in where I'm like, okay, I see the ball coming, you know. Now, that don't happen often either. But those points are really, you know, so it's just that this whole spiritual plane thing is just, you know, I couldn't have imagined. And when I heard you telling me this, when I first started showing up, you know, I thought I'm thinking I'm hanging out with a bunch of Looney Tunes.
Yeah, that's a little much, girl.
Yeah.
No, I did.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'd be up there with Happy and Jerry and Rick and these guys, and they're talking about this stuff, you know, and I really don't give a shit about any of it.
Calm down,
I just want to know how I'm not going to drink tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's what I need to know. What is the trick to not drinking tomorrow? You know, I think I made it to tonight because it's 2:00 and I'm tired and everything's closed. When we're done here, I'm going to make it tonight. What do I do tomorrow? But then later on, I see, and you know, and that's you said, just keep coming back, just stay here, don't drink,
don't give up,
and watch.
Don't give up.
You will magically grow if you'll just do that, you know. And I think that's some trick in the steps too. Is that
I know it.
The steps are like this little gauntlet, this little tunnel you walk for a while because it just keeps you moving, it keeps you here, you know. No, there's magic in that work too. I get that, but there's also the dynamic of just hanging you around for a while. Okay, we're going to give you something to do.
Yeah.
And here's what you're going to do. And while you're doing that, you're going to start waking up.
Yeah.
Now, byproduct is this work that we're having you do also is going to help you. This is also going to help. It's going to accelerate the thing. But sometimes it's a funny thing, like people just do what I'm telling you to do. I don't understand how that's going to help me.
Wise. I mean, the people I've been accused of being wise, and I can't even hardly say it without laughing, because I mean, a girl like me.
Yeah.
And somebody, I've been corrected on that sentence. What do you mean a girl? I mean exactly what I said. A girl like me, I'm just a chick trying to stay sober, live, out here and function, but
the fact of the matter is you are a child of God that's sent down here to do a freaking job. We don't know what it is. That's the problem. Nobody ever gave us the damn narrative or the map, But I'm down here. My job is to like beat feet, pay attention, watch what I'm supposed to be doing, listen to others, tune into my higher power. Try to walk that like I prayed before we started this, help me see that path. I don't know if he's going to for sure, but I want to help because I want to be able to stay on it. And sometimes it is. Sometimes it's more visible than it is. The first time people would tell you, that you don't deserve this stuff and, and I've give up all that. And I do the same thing. I go, why are you doing this podcast, right? Who's going to listen to you? Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
And you go down those little rabbit holes for a minute about this. And you said something earlier that tipped me off. I say a bell ringer. I have bell ringers. When people are sharing, it'll be ding, ding, ding.
That's cool.
Ding.
I like that.
And I actually took it from my kids' school. They got something in their school called a bell ringer.
Oh,
it's completely different.
Okay.
It's a completely different thing, I think. But I took it. I lifted it off of that because you see it in their little emails about school and whatnot. Today's bell ringer is, but that thing about, and I think you were saying, we manipulated, and for me, I was like this con man, right? I needed to do this orchestration thing to get all things to line up for me, so that you would think I'm okay, and that
the big facade.
I could get around this corner and sneak around the backside and do all that. But now and again, it'll come to me that are you doing that here too? Is this just a con? When's this jig gonna be up? Because all those other cons would end up be up sooner or later too, right?
That chatter.
That voice that's still, and I guess that's just part of it too, because you hear people talking about having, been around a long time, and they're talking that. Because the one thing I do get to do today is listen.
Well, when
you tell stuff about it, and somebody else tells stuff about it, then if I'm paying attention, then I know that's happening to me too. Right.
What? Oh, it's welcome to God's spiritual kindergarten. Pay attention in school.
Yeah.
I love that, man. My friend John told me that, and I love that. I use it all the time. I hear it. Pay attention in school. I'm like, okay. It's like the self-awareness, or not just self, which is very important. And that's hard. I'm not very good at bragging on myself. I'm still not real good at bragging on my confidence is up. I'm working on that more. My sponsor told me, and it's just part of me, so I'm going to talk about it, but she told me, it was when Josh was sick, she said, Debbie, I've noticed that your confidence has changed, and I didn't even realize it about myself, and it was a lot of what I was going through, everything just went kind of in the shitter, and so you bring that back up, but, I was meeting with them women on Zoom and then in my little life group last night, and they're like, but Debbie, we were talking about send me. Like, we don't know really where we're going to be sent or whatever. So when I say, here I am, God send me, that's pretty risky for one, but I mean it, because really I made a little, snicker about it. I'm like, well, how bad could it be? I mean, I've been through some pretty crazy stuff. And if I really want to be who I say I am, I want to be who who God will have me be, then, I better mean it if I'm going to say it, right? So they're like, well, you're just, oh my gosh, your self-awareness is like, I was like, I don't know about that. If y'all say so, okay, whatever. I do tell myself pretty good. I got to keep that. I allow myself to be vulnerable. I do that. And it's like, okay, that self-awareness, okay, you say I have these little things or whatever, maybe I do, maybe I don't, that's real neat. But what I do know is I need to give myself a little more credit because I used to not. You know what I mean? It just happened. Somebody taught me that. Some of them teachers. I learned I learned a whole lot in meditation. I didn't really hit on that, but some years sober, I had a teacher, and the teacher, and we had that little, and that was a big part of a shift, of a transition I was in,
yeah.
because I didn't know how to make it shut up. How do you get that mind to stop? I mean, I ain't got no shame in my game. I was, sober like a long period of time, or what I call a long period of time. And I could sit home, what they call it, be okay in your own skin. I could sit home and stuff like that, but this would not shut up. But more importantly, when I learned a few things, and one of them that I can remember is, meditation helped me build a bridge from here to here. And I'm pointing to my head and my heart.
Right.
So when I got, and in breathing, when I got this to shut up, it never dawned on me, you can't deep breathe and your mind doesn't go at the same time. That was freaking aha moment right there, son, I'm telling you. And I was like, shut up. And then I could remember, I get excited to talk about, I couldn't wait to get home to be still and check it out. I mean, hey, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well,
I remember being excited like a little kid, and I didn't dawn on me for a while. He's going to that meditation meeting at Jerry's upstairs, and I didn't.
It was just cool.
I was just cool, and it seemed to be one of these things I should be doing or whatever. I was playing sober in that period of time for a while. I wasn't even doing what I was supposed to be doing. I thought that.
Maybe you was doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't representing myself in an honest manner.
Okay.
That's what I mean.
Okay, Dad.
I had been, at some point there, I'd already broke in that house, and I was in all kinds of freaking trouble, and I wasn't supposed to be drinking
I'm not
at all.
laughing, but
I mean, it's funny,
right.
And I won't go back to AA, but I'll go to this meditation meeting.
Yeah.
And I'm going to doing that, and but I felt a lot of peace after leaving that thing every time, and I would come home and want to practice it, almost like if I would go to the, I don't know what you might
That's
go
what
through.
I mean.
Go through hatchets, and you never done it before, and you didn't even know if you was going to like it. But I went because some friends went and invited me.
Yeah, and it was cool,
and
they were
buying
cool.
hatchets off of Amazon. That's kind of like what meditation was in a way. I was coming home and I was going, okay, what can I do with this?
And then I'd hear y'all stories. And you'd share your story, I'd be like, oh, I want that meditation.
Yeah.
And they had to be told things like, it's not a bad meditation. I'm like, oh, well, whew, that's good to know.
That's really, that peer pressure thing that really helped me tremendously, and I do share on that, was sitting in there meditating with other people, because there's no way I was going to do that by myself. I wasn't going to do it by myself. I wouldn't. I'd find the laundry to do, or something would happen, and I would find any myriad of excuses. But because y'all were all sitting down, my ass was going to stay sitting down. Now, I might stop and tune out, but I'd tune out and start beating myself up, and somebody would share that.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't go out all day. That was.
I
just sit here and thought the whole time.
Yeah,
I'd be
like,
going,
Debbie,
okay,
it
well,
don't
that's
matter.
okay. Huh?
Yes, it's okay. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and us teaching, and I learned it there,
But
and
that
that was
helped
huge
me.
for me. Oh, it helped me.
That was a big, big part.
So that's a lot of years
them.
down the path too. That you what.
And the people, and you see how many people that it's almost contagious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You see it real active now, and it's just like,
I'll tell you,
okay.
when Julie come in there and did a fun one when she guided us with her voice.
I remember that.
That and just totally I went
I can
bananas,
remember that.
and I have this thing that happens, and it's happened all along, and I'm now beginning to tune into it, that I get this chill that runs up my spine, and it lands right here in the back of my neck.
Yeah.
And it sits there and it just pulsates in there, man. And I mean, almost like a cat being petted or something.
No,
Just like,
you be purring.
oh, I like that, And
Yeah.
I used to be scared of that and would fight it, and some of the stuff because of some sexual confusion as a child, some things. If I'd have that feeling around a man, I'd think it was like some kind of thing that was wrong.
Okay.
And I would want to reject that, because I was thinking that maybe that was, that's not what I want to be. And realize now, actually looking back, was some of these people were what I would call was spiritually solid people. One of them was a tool and die maker I worked with a long time ago, and I would do anything to be assigned to him, because when I was around him, I just was like, oh, and I could sit in his office chair.
I know,
At work,
yes.
and I could sit and I would do that, and I would sneak into his office, and
Just
sit in his
to sit.
office chair, and I would feel it. I
Maybe-
can cultivate that little
See?
buzz, that natural buzz thing that's going on, and I can feel that. And I'm
You know
like,
why that
"Oh,
excites me?
yeah."
Because I know people. I know exactly what you're talking about. Just to even be.
And people in AA have done it to me. People in
Yeah.
recovery where I've gotten up next to somebody.
You
man,
want
and
more
I
of
know
it.
I feel that, and I feel that energy off of them that is good. You
That's
know, and that's
good.
me saying that's good. And that person is good for me
Yeah, I
too.
need to be
'cause
around
the other
them
side of
more.
that, yeah. If I get around somebody, the flip side of that is sometimes I get around some people and I go, oh no,
Yep.
nice to meet you.
Morning,
Going over
morning.
there.
Morning.
But there's people that do that, and I had a gal here the other night, Sunday, and she sat and she got out her drum, her elk skin drum,
Okay.
and played her drum for me and sang.
The vibration of it.
Yeah, in here, it's in the last week's podcast, man. And
Okay, I'll
I'm
check it
sitting
out.
here just dying.
Woo.
She could have sang. She could be still sitting
Look,
there. She could still
Just
be
hearing you talk about it gives me goosebumps.
she could still be sitting there singing that song, and I would not run her off. I'd
'Cause I
still
know
be
the
sitting here,
feeling. That's
'cause
why
I,
that's
I
going
didn't
on.
want her to stop, man. I'm like, oh god.
Yeah.
And,
You
and I
know,
get that talking about it. but
I've been trying to work a
meditation
little
will do that.
harder because I got away from it, the meditation stuff. I mean, I don't have any excuses. I just did. So much was going. I mean, really, it
Cycles.
seemed like when I maybe don't get me wrong, I might have been in the floor with prayer and crying and everything else, kind of stuff. There's different kinds of meditation, but I'm trying to, I'm growing, I'm healing, and I'm trying to get to the next season. And it's there. This is part of it.
Yeah.
This is part
I
of
love the
it.
season thought too, because that's what I look at. Like life is a whole bunch of seasons, and and we don't get when one season ends out there in nature, we don't really complain about it. We actually
Yes.
I usually find myself excited about whatever next season is coming. So why don't I think about that in my life too? When a relationship doesn't work out,
That's
it's just a
good.
season,
That's
and
good.
we'll just see what the next season brings. And,
Breathe and smile.
yeah, and because the other end of it just doesn't really work, right?
Yeah.
To introduce stress, and so like that's the flip side of that. Is to
Okay.
not let it go and not roll with it. Is to chew
I mean,
on it.
I'm guilty of
And
that
I can
too.
chew- I will.
Oh,
too.
hang on to
Oh,
that.
me
Don't
too.
that
I'll
feel
grab it.
good?
Yeah, I'll chew on
Yeah.
it at times.
Yeah.
But I will come back quicker in course correction, and sometimes I just let myself be pissed. Right. I mean, we've had a little shake up in some areas in some places, and there's some people that I'm not ready to forgive just yet. And my sponsor says that's okay.
I
The time
have,
will come.
I had a
I think
couple.
I'm too spiritual to be holding that thoughts and it. No, I get to feel this for a
No,
little bit.
I talked about it, and I had a couple. I say had, they're not gone, but it's not the same level.
Mm-hmm.
And my awakening at that point with one of them, I was in this. It was a worship night. I'll tell you where I was at. And it was a song. I heard it in music, and I couldn't tell you the name of the song. I just know that I showed up. That has been like my go-to is just show up.
Show up.
I just keep showing
Suit up and
I mean,
show up.
where the hell ever it is, Deb, just keep showing up. And I showed up, and it was talking about some light in the darkness in a crack. And for whatever reason, I believe God gave it to me then, and I knew that if I didn't forgive, I was scared. I was scared if I didn't forgive. I've always forgive. You heard me talk about that. I've always, went through the steps and forgive or whatever I needed to do. And, I mean, I've been sober, so it'd probably be a good idea to do whatever it takes to work towards that,
Yep.
And no, it doesn't happen overnight.
Yep. So they'll say, and I don't know how this happened either, because you said about this chance meeting, and I have a list of people on my phone I want to have on the podcast. Mm-hmm. And one of the things about, like you said, you just keep suiting up and showing up. One of the things that I do remember about those people who were in that meeting in 2011, there's a great deal of them, and the ones that stick in my head the most are the ones that when I keep seeing them.
Okay.
And they said that when they told me to keep coming back, they were also doing that.
Yeah.
So like they're not just lip servicing me, but what it was. I don't know how like you said, I have trouble keeping track. One of my little tagline things, one of my little things I say, if I knew I was going to have to tell this story, I'd have kept better track.
It is. It gets so
But
all
some time
over the
ago, at about, I don't know if it's 1 o'clock in the morning, I did something and I looked over and I had a missed call by you.
Oh,
way late.
yes.
Way too damn late. And when
it
somebody,
was about midnight.
yeah, if some place like that kind of neighborhood, and I don't know if I had already fell asleep and I woke up and looked at my phone, which is a bad habit I have of checking my phone when I wake up in the middle of the night, look at it real quick, see if anybody's in trouble. Well, when somebody in the program calls at that time of night, I get concerned. What if it's a missed call or whatever it is, So I text.
Did I text? Oops. Or
No.
did you text
You
me?
didn't. I don't
first?
think I texted you
I
first.
thought-
I was like, I got a
Okay.
missed call, so I'm not just checking. No big
because I
deal.
always tell people I called you on accident. You
And
know.
you said you didn't know how it happened.
And you were
You texted me
yes.
back, you said, "I don't know how that
I don't
happened."
even know how I did that. It's not like I had your name.
So that's there's a little thing that I caught myself
See?
saying in one of my shares. I was talking about some stuff, and I said, I don't know how that happens. And and there were some things that happened in my life, and I don't know how that happens. I don't know how this happens. And so you said, I don't know how that happens. Well, that's like almost like you said something that pinged me, and I'm like, well, because I always do this. I go,
okay. And guess
I look
what?
I look upward, kind of like going, okay, is that my sign? Is that my deal? And usually I'll get some kind of little nudge about it,
Well,
so I
it
followed
pinged
that
me
down
too.
on this.
It pinged me too when you text me. When you pinged me is when you sent me the text about, hey, whatever it said, then you pretty much asked me if I'd be interested in sharing on the podcast. I was like, it's all because of that call that night. I was put on his heart or something maybe, and I'm like, girl, you're thinking too much. And I'm like,
I really
no,
believe that.
No, really, I was like, I think this was, this was my thinking was, well, I know Dan a little bit, and that probably, I didn't use the word ping, so that'd be a lie, but that probably triggered something in him
Right,
to think,
yeah.
oh, Debbie Taylor, or something, because it wasn't too much later. I got the text, and I even smiled at the text,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, Dan, all right.
Well, that's
call
I
you
really
again.
Do follow those things when they come down through like that, because I do. I really do have a list of people in my phone that people, so like Bart M.
Okay.
You know who I'm talking about, Bart? He's been around for quite a while.
Yes.
So I am thinking I heard him share the lunch bunch one day, and and I heard him, and I thought, so I'll hear somebody share, and I'll put him in my list. And it's not like I'm gonna go ask him right now, but I'll go, I'll write him down. And so I don't know. There was some time that went by, and it wasn't very long, and I go show up for my 6 a.m. yoga class, and this son of a buck is sitting next to me on the mat.
See,
so that's what I
yeah.
go. And that's exactly what I do. I go,
I always
hey,
say,
man,
I know
I've been
that-
wanting to talk to you about something. And he's like, really? Yeah, cool, man. So we actually did yoga one morning and then come over here right after that, like
Oh,
7
that's
a.m.
cool.
in the morning or whatever. Did a podcast that early in the morning.
I always say,
afterwards.
I do look up a lot, but it's like, I know it's you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
it's so
I just-
cool to be
yeah.
able to operate on that plane. I just love it. I tickle.
I mean, I feel special. Do you feel special when stuff like that?
I do feel special. And I think the fact of the matter is we all are. That's that blocked thing that's happened, whether if it's blocked by the chemicals and that kind of thing, or it's just blocked by my selfish, self-centered.
All the above.
I can't, whatever, and we get to have these crises that cause us to come to this thing where we begin to get our cracks cracked open so the light can shine in and all that. And then we're able to actually get with this deal, And some people don't go where we go. Some people do it different. But I also hear a lot of people out in the world that are waking up that way too, whether if it's through recovery things or whatever. So I get these other teachings that come from other directions.
I like that waking up to this thing, because that's been happening. I've been noticing this over the year, because when I was talking about being aware and awake, but even. Well, it might be a little deep, but I just really didn't realize how asleep I was.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like walking around out there, just like sleepy girl, and to like even the 12 steps, and I'm thinking, okay, so an awakening. Well. What I'm thinking about, what I'm referring to, is like a whole different kind. Oh, I was awakened, but as I stayed sober, I mean, like, things started changing, really awake, really aware, and sometimes I was like, is this a good thing? No, because sometimes it's like, well, that may be towards the feeling part of things a little bit, and everything's just kind of extra, so it seems. But yeah,
throwing
I
those
mean,
judgments on whether if it's good or bad or what.
yeah,
whether
I
it's
mean,
that,
just
you know.
all it doesn't matter. I mean, I
One of my
feel
favorite speakers that I listen to, and he's been. That's one thing about this Zoom thing that's happening too. Is like some speakers I used to listen to that I don't find any new content. I'm finding them they're back out again, like on the circuit doing.
okay.
And they're on Zoom, so you can like tune in. You can go see them almost. I mean, and but one of them is tomorrow night, and it's on top of another meeting, so I'm gonna miss him. But it was Scott Lee, and he says his last name in his talk, so I will too. But he says he landed on something. He said, when my alarm goes off in the morning, I'm awake, but in a couple of minutes, I'm a little more awake, and then I get up and get moving around. I'm a little more awake. And he said that's the analogy for like what we do here. We continue to like get more and more. I don't like that everybody's throwing around woke and and the whole
Oh yeah,
and all that. Which I don't know why I don't. Maybe they mean the exact same thing I'm saying. But I'm waking up. I'm all the time. I'm able to open my eyes a little wider and receive things down here that I used to would. One thing was as I used to would reject them. I would like because I'm not good enough, or that can't be true, or like gifts would fall out of the sky, kind of stuff, and I would sweep them to the side, or I'd sidestep them. Opportunities to do things. Or today I can say yes to opportunities when somebody says, "Hey, can you make one of these?" My gut reaction is to say, "I haven't done that before, and so no, therefore I can't." Today I don't. Today, when those opportunities come down the pike, I go, "Yeah, I think I can do that."
I think I can do that.
I didn't tell you I ain't never done it before, but I never done that before, but I did it this time, and that one thing started, and I'd like to give, because Happy is a dude who's been real instrumental in a lot of ways in my life, and in my recovery. I met him. I told you I went to that Wednesday night meeting and met you and met these people, and then so like I wanted to go to a meeting the very next night, and y'all said that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
And I went to a meeting, and I went to this was a speaker meeting, and I didn't have any idea about what one meeting was or another, So I go to another meeting the next night, and I wanted to die when I got out of that meeting. The speaker was, it was just like,
okay, yeah.
Y'all said to call, and for some reason, and I won't give myself credit for doing this stuff. Y'all said call these numbers, and it's kind of funny because for whatever reason, Jerry was somebody I could call, and I don't know why that was. I have no idea why. But
me
that
too.
was a number on there that I felt safe enough.
He was safe
To call. I didn't feel, and I was intimidated by every number that I had, but that seemed like that one opened up for me, and I had all these numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in the front of my car outside the meeting going, and I'm knowing I'm either going to make one of these phone calls or I'm going to the liquor store. That's where I was at. I was sitting there, and it was going to be one of those two things.
Time will come.
And I did. And I called, and Jerry and Rick and all them guys were all up at the McDonald's up in Edwardsville, sitting after that meeting on Thursday night up there.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I met those guys, and went up there. And one Happy one day said, he showed me a picture of that ohm symbol, a picture of it. And he said, "Can you make me one of these out of wood?" And I didn't know if I could or not. But I didn't want to tell him I couldn't. I don't want to tell somebody. I don't want to admit I can't do something.
That's right.
And I went home and whittled one of them things up. It's rough. I didn't have, I might as well had a hatchet.
I think mine looks perfect.
Yeah, and they were getting but that first one, and then, and man, I've made hundreds of those things now and sold some and give a lot of them away. But that's that thing of being able to say, yeah, I can do that, and the same thing happens when God offers you some kind of gift down here, to be in a position to say, yeah, I'll take it. My arms are open. I will receive it.
I was sharing with somebody. I didn't tell too many people that I was coming here. Just because. It's not like I put it on,
I get it. This is funny.
Broadcast or whatever, right? But I did. I sent a little group. We were in a group meeting with my life group. I was like, I was commenting on something else, and I was like, hey, y'all. They did. They asked. They prayer warriors, and they're blah, 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 blah. And I was like, hey, I said, yeah. I said, I got a couple things. I was like, one, I got a phone call, make a little bit of some business or whatever, and I'm a truthful person. I'm gonna talk truth. I was maybe a witness type thing or something, and I said, and the next thing is, I I said, I got invited to do this little podcast this evening. I think I wrote, it was short form, but I was like, my recovery story / conversation, because I like the way you put that. And I mean, I'm not confused. I know I can talk, you know, but I thought, well, what a neat take. I wouldn't have to talk. I mean, like, you know, and I even told him, I said, that's part I told you, you know, and I said, I don't know. I said, I'm just a little nervous about it. But I wrote what I told you in there. I said, you know, they don't know who you are, but I use your name. I said, I know Dan. I've known him for years. He's easy to talk to. And what was the other thing? I said, whatever it was. And, you know, they text back. And the first one the girl said was, you're being sent. Because I told you we was in that, you know,
Right, yeah.
that series that I'm in. And I was like, oh, and they're like, you'll be fine. I mean, it was just so profound and worded just so perfectly. It's almost like, really, it was support and like my cheerleaders or whatever.
Yeah.
And they know me. There's not too much they don't know about me that I've let them in my life, especially over the last little while. And they're like, see, we told you. You don't even see what the gifts God give you are, you know, that you're being sent for. You make jokes and crack on yourself for how much you talk or for whatever. She's like, but will we hear you when you share and you bring your wisdom to the group or you do whatever, you know, it's the way you do it. You just got a way of just pulling it out, not just out yourself, but others. And I'm kind of scratching my head. I'm like, okay, well, and I say thank you before I chop it up. But if I wouldn't have asked them to pray for me, I think's where I'm going with this, I wouldn't see what they see. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Therefore, it kind of drives you a little bit. You know, who am I to think I know what God's plan is for me? That's what I'm trying to sum it up with.
Right, yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I mean, just do it.
Yeah, and I don't see, you know, there's another thing I say, I don't see me that well, you know. You guys see me better than I see me. You know, so if I'm not continuing to keep myself a little open to you guys, then I'm going to be missing out on a lot. Just like that example you said there. I love the group me's too. I got it from a nicotine cessation world, is these the things. And so I started one with my guys, and, you know, and I have a few of those group me's now. And I ask the people ante up. I say, that's the price to pay in here. Is that you got to ante up, because I'm not going to put my personal shit out on the table unless
Good
you're
for
doing
you.
it too, you know. So
Good for you. I gotta get vulnerable in there. I mean, they'd be
I'll
like,
push some chips out to the table, man. And I know it's tough, but you're safe here.
I mean, they do. They'll be like, hey, girls, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm over here, you know, maybe I'm dying inside that day. Maybe grief is just so strong, or maybe I'm just so irritated I can't even stand myself.
Yeah.
I mean, or whatever, you know. Oh, by the way, did I mention I'm not cured. I'm not, you know, I'm not well. I'm better, you know. I'm good even, you know. But I've said this for years. I haven't peaked out.
Yeah.
You know, I want more. I want more of recovery. I want more of God's plan, you know, and Dev's plan to coincide. It's a beautiful day.
Yeah.
I shared that them last. It's a beautiful day when that happens.
Yeah.
You know,
You said that I want more. You know, that's another thing. Happy said something about adding to, and he would always say, add to the things to my life, add things to my life that would improve the quality of my life and recovery. I've heard other people say that too. And then another guy says, I smell more. Another speaker I heard, and you said, I want more, you know, and I want more too, and I smell more. I know there's more out there. I know with
Isn't
the
that
bottom
cool?
of my heart. Well, no.
I've always
there's
wanted
out
more.
there. I have. I've always
I just
wanted
want
more.
different things.
Yeah.
I want more
But I want
different
more of
things.
these chills up the back of my spine, and I want more of these hugs with my brothers, and I want more tears behind a fist step, and I want, you know, and that's
Oh,
what
come
I want,
on,
is
bring
all
it.
that kind of stuff, you know, and
now
I
you're
want to
talking.
keep on walking that stuff out where, you know, we get this, you know.
More
again,
hugs from
isn't
your
just-
brothers. That's
Isn't
good.
it just a trip? Because that's one thing I miss in this whole deal big time. I do miss the physical,
Yeah.
and I miss the physical touch with people, hugs, that kind of stuff. And I miss just the physical presence.
Yeah.
And that's one thing I've been able to get people to come here, you know, because this is safe.
It's safe.
One-on-one.
It's safe.
I mean,
Yeah, I'm at the other end of this big long table.
yeah,
I mean, it's safe.
and to get so I'm still, again, God's providing for me at some level in a way that's different than some others, because I got a person that comes across the table from me every week, and we get to talk recovery. So I get to have a little meeting here and get some of that need satisfied. But I miss it. I do miss that.
I was going to comment when we were talking earlier about, the whole pandemic and all that, and being sober or getting sober, and God bless them. I mean, it's like, well, for one, a couple things happened to me. I often share that I don't know that my life's changed a whole lot. I mean, because I'm Debbie Taylor. I know I'm okay with that. Whatever. There's a lot of Debbies, but I do me, and a lot of what I'm doing now is what I was doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't have friends. I'm not saying I don't go socialize. I'm not saying I don't do some meetings but what I know about me is, I found this out years ago. My friend, you know him, helped me with that. And I like for things to be my idea. I need for things to be my idea sometimes. I let go of a lot of that, but I like it to be my idea if I want to come visit you. I like it to be my idea if I want to go to a meeting. I like it to be my idea, whatever. And then when it couldn't be my idea, I was like a little rebellious in the beginning. Well,
Yeah.
I might not even went to the club for meetings or whatever, but by gosh, I can't now if I wanted to. And so I'm running around pretty much doing what I've always did. And, because really I do a lot, with me. And
Me too.
I do a lot with me, and I'm okay with a lot of that, and sometimes I may have been asked about that. Maybe you think a little too much, and maybe I don't know about all that, But I do have the need, and I had to get with this that, and I have shared it out loud and allowed myself to be vulnerable, let people in that I do need y'all, whoever y'all are at the that time. I do need to be relational. I found that out. I've had to learn that, and I sometimes I work in public. I work I work in retail. I work at a grocery too. So sometimes I just can't even handle people. I can't handle no more energy from anybody. I can't handle anything. I just go home and I'll be like trying to suck it up and recharge. So, and then when I get out there, outside, and I really get to what I call recharge, and I get with, I get with God in my house too, but it really goes down outside. And
there's an energy field out there that does something like I don't know, it
it's
rearranges
just
the
amazing.
molecules in me or something. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but when I get out, there's something that happens that I can't, I can be okay anywhere.
But I miss physical. I miss touching people. I miss getting to have the choice if I wanted to go. And I talk with my hands, and I'd be wanting to touch people and smack people or something. You're like, oops, sorry, and all that. But, we're okay because really, for me, I've why I paused? I paused because I didn't want it to sound like ego or bragging, but what I was going to say is I've been able to get out of myself. And I've shared this with some of these, whether it's a virtual meeting or a group me or whoever, I've shared this with some people that, I live by myself. You know what I mean? And kiddos are grown or whatever, and I don't have the husband, the significant other, the partner, whatever, so I'm not going through a lot of whatever a lot of people are going through, and I kind of feel for some.
My life's pretty simple too.
I hear them make the jokes about, we love each other, but whoo, I mean, or
people in relationships that are not, getting to they're getting to be having a little too much of one another.
Yeah,
and,
the
and no
kiddos.
break from the kids because the kids aren't going.
Oh my goodness, the e-learning. What about that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just that
And
might
I,
just
I would say, because I work with dudes primarily, there's a thing about like, and I think it's a little primal too, and I kind of say this a little bit tongue in cheek, but I think it's really there that, we've been trained to go out and kill the meat and bring it home, right? And now these dudes ain't getting to go out and hunt, and even though Hunt might be sitting at the desk at the engineering office,
okay.
but
Right.
that's, and so we wrap, guys wrap a lot of their self-worth up in the fact that are they doing that, right? And even though I'm still doing it from home,
Okay.
it don't feel the same, right?
All right.
It's not the same. So I watch and there's a lot of dynamics going on around that. This thing is, and I guess I have to always say, I mean, again, there's a reason for this, I suppose. I don't know what it is. I see what I see that just turns my heart on bigger than anything else. My street is turned into a playground again because there are a tremendous amount of little kids that play on the street, that live on the street that I never see. But I see them this
Wow.
spring. They're
What a beautiful
everywhere.
thing.
They're sidewalk chalking. I got the only little hill, my little driveway hill, so kids love to come ride their bike up at the top of the driveway so they can
Yeah.
shoot down like that.
Shoot down. Yeah, that does. See, that's pretty neat that you even.
So I love to see that my neighborhood come alive in a way, because that's the way it was when I was a kid. You were talking earlier, we were down at the end of the street hanging out, and we were, even though maybe we weren't necessarily up to the most good going on
That's
down there,
right.
but we were
Yeah.
still out.
Yeah,
and
we
about.
hope they're not
And that's
doing
something
that.
that's going
No.
on. I mean, that's a dynamic that's happened where the world has changed. Kids, you don't see kids out riding bicycles a lot anymore. That's just not something you do. That's not. I mean, I'm not saying it's not happening, but everybody was on a bike when I was a kid.
Everybody.
Everybody. Yeah. And
Everybody.
I bet the bike sales.
We met at the bar.
Yeah.
Down there at the tree.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Bike sales are good.
I bet,
I
because
bet they
look
are.
around. There's people in there, and you walk around. There's a lot more people out walking. It seems to me there seems to be
No,
a
there
lot
is.
of people out and about right now on their feet.
It's
and
not.
that's a good thing.
They're out, and that's a good thing. All those river banking, romping walks, and all that stuff I do, and that I'm not by myself anymore. You know what I mean? I mean, I'm selfish, self-centered. By nature, right?
Now you're bumping into people.
No, and I was kind of like, excuse me, this is my
This
this
is my
is my
spot."
river. But no, really, I got with this the last week. I was down there on the banks, and man, I was just sitting and I was looking at one of them big old trees, and I might have videoed it. Heck, I can't remember. Good chance I took a picture, but I just looked up, and it was the greenest green, and it was
Things
just
do seem greener.
it. Wow. You know what? The women in my group talked about that. We all talked about this. They were like, hey, is it me? Or y'all notice? I said, I noticed. And just now I just heard you say that. I'm telling you, stuff's going down.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it
there's
was.
the blooms.
Like,
I've
I get
noticed,
excited
The
about
blooms I saw this spring, like as far as like nature busting out this spring. Even though
Something.
there's this other cloud over here of this pandemic going on.
Yeah.
There's also some other dynamic
Something's going on,
And,
yeah.
now you hear, if you listen, like I listen to some podcasts that are like out of LA, and apparently there's like a really big drop in pollution out there. You can actually see because they
Okay.
ain't driving.
Wow.
Because they're a little locked down, a little harder.
Wow.
than we
Couldn't
are.
you imagine being that now?
And
See?
saying that that the sky is actually clearer because of the lack of pollution.
How cool would that be for them?
Yeah, that they can actually see the smog is lifted off.
I'm
of
telling
LA.
you, I laid there. I had a little towel on I call it the beach, on the sand of the Ohio River. And it was my beach. And I looked up and I'm like, wow, man, that it just is. It's greener. It was like three-dimensional looking.
Yep, I
it
get
was
it.
so
Totally.
intense. And
feel
I'm
you.
like, okay. And I looked around and there's people. And then the mom and the kid and the families. But the one of the best ones I was there. It was so cool. I was laying there and I looked to my right because I always look for my surroundings. Even if I'll close my eyes for a minute or whatever, I look at my surroundings. And I look over and there's Mama and Papa climbing. You get the picture, okay? The picture is nothing but driftwood pile down the green hill up there at Jeff on the stretch, climbing, and they're big when you get down there.
Yeah.
Okay, climbing over all this stuff. Well, Papa's kind of got the lead. He's almost to the bank up there. Mama is over here. I mean, she is watching her footage, okay? And I was talking out loud. There wasn't nobody there. And I was like, that is the most beautiful thing. I'm going to be like that when I grow up.
Yeah.
And he had this fancy camera, the big lens and all that, and he was already taking a picture. Mama's over here trying to make her way. She had a little walking stick. She was on top of his big old, I was like, I had moved like I thought about going to help Mama or something. And I was like, man, I just couldn't. It sounds kind of petty maybe to y'all, but it was like, that is so cool. Okay, so Mama makes her way over there. Papa turns around and takes a picture. Mama almost cried, and I'm talking out loud to him. I'm like, really, Papa? You're going to take a picture. Hope she don't fall. All right, so I'm going to land this plane. So he's taking a picture, and he's got the skyline of Louisville and the bridge, it's there. And Mama comes up walking. She makes it, by the way, safe and sound. And she got her little phone out. Peppa's got fancy. I don't know what kind of camera it was, but it was big. And she got her little phone out, and they're standing side by side, taking the same picture. And then they made their way across there, and I watched them leave. I spent a lot of time on talking about that old couple, because stuff like that's important to me.
Yeah.
And they had some age on them, Dan. And then I watched something else happen. Then guess what I seen? On this big old stump, and I've seen some big stumps, some really cool wood. It was the biggest one I've ever seen on the river. The only other one bigger I've seen is at Bernheim, the one they got in the thing. Okay. I'd sat on it already. I said, man, this would be a nice little meditation chill spot, So I get up to leave, and I turn around, there's two girls sitting on it. And I look at this girl, and I was like, I said, oh, that's a nice spot, huh? She's like, yeah. And the other girl's like, how you doing? And I look, and I'm like, I think I know them. And I said, I'm good. I said, actually, I'm real good. I said, y'all doing all right? I said, you will be. Just sit there a little bit, And I was kind of making a joke. And then all of a sudden I looked around, and there was a bunch of girls. Well, I know them through recovery. And, and kind of find out they formed a little circle or whatever. And, and I was like, well, that was pretty cool. And this all happened like at a really short amount of time. And I look, and there's like people everywhere. And I said, good God, this is good.
Yeah.
All that, you called it a cloud, all that may not be so good, but this is good.
Yep, there's some good in it, no doubt about it. And you see it, and that's the problem. We have this negative bias thing going on, and I don't, I can't watch news or do any of that. I just can't. I just cannot to do that. Because it's just like drinking poison or something. It's just yuck.
Makes me breathe heavy.
And I will I got wound up into it a little bit here and there, and then I was like, whoa, wait. And,
I think I can feel right now the way whether it was that moment or many others before and after, it's because I know how I feel. You know what I'm saying? They're oohing and ahhing, and the kids it was just happiness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was peace. It was contentment. And I know what I get when I go do that. I do that all along.
Yeah.
Don't need pandemic, but I was happy for them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I was happy.
People are getting out doing some things that they wouldn't normally do. We went hiking I've been up, going doing things local. I kind of pigeonhole myself down to that place out in the country. One of the things is I'm assured some privacy down there, but there's the flip side of that. I do like what you're saying about bumping into people, but you would go to Charleston State Park and it was packed.
I went there here a few weeks ago.
And you go to these places and you're like, whoa, and you used to go to those places and almost have them by yourself, right? You'd be there and every 2 or 3 cars in the parking lot,
Yeah, I got to look at how selfish I was in that thinking.
Yeah. And going to show it. And also another little thing, I watched and I thought was interesting in the beginning is that there's some people that around me were complaining about that they were stuck at home and they couldn't, we're not posted. I can't do anything. This really sucks. I'm stuck here. And I'm like, you are not. There is no rule that says you got to sit at home. Mm-hmm. You can get out and do a lot of things. You want to go for a hike, go for a walk, go for a drive. You can drive wherever you want to.
And gas was cheap. That was it. I was an inside joke. I'm like, I can't stop nowhere, but by God, I can get across the country.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and man, the minute they opened the state up, man, the gas prices are right back up too, man.
Yeah,
it's just like,
oh my
bling,
gosh.
man. It's like, that's a sign.
I didn't really go. I did go to the country, deep in the country a few times, and a little road trip and stuff, and that was nice. I think
I went and spent a week almost down at the cabin. I had a buddy
you
down there
said
turkey
something after you
season,
texted me about this. You're like something. You said something about a Wednesday or Sunday, and you're just like, I'm going to the cabin for a little while.
Yeah,
And I was like,
dang,
good
that's
for
a perfect time to do that. Plus,
Good for
I'm down there
him.
getting ready for this retreat to start up too, so I like to get the place polished up and
That's exciting.
have it in good
Good for
shape.
you.
I mean, who'd have thunk I'd have been doing that too? I get
I haven't
these.
been on a retreat in a while.
This
Well,
is
we
the
did the
seventh-
women's one in Columbus. I missed last year, I think, but I missed the one up at the Mount. Used
Yeah.
to do that.
This is my 7th one coming up. It's crazy.
That's awesome, man. It's crazy cool. It is. I
and
mean,
these guys are like excited about it. We got our own group me, where everybody's all, they're taking pictures of the food they're making to bring and posting them.
I'm excited
And,
for
yeah,
you.
It's gonna be a blast. It's like Christmas. Like tomorrow, that's most of what tomorrow is gonna be, is making sure I got the rest of my stuff, and we'll meet here. Guys are gonna meet. A lot of them meet me here at 10 o'clock on Friday morning, and we'll tear out in a caravan.
Aw.
And some others I have to wait till after work and come and that kind of stuff. But
Wow, all because.
yeah. Last May I had 32 men around the campfire on a Saturday night meeting, and I was like, because I'm not prepared for that. We got one outhouse.
Okay.
Yeah,
and a lot of woods.
Yeah, in a lot of woods, right? Yep. Get creative. But some of these guys ain't necessarily that kind of.
Well, okay.
Some of them are.
Yeah, well,
Yep.
I'm not making fun of them.
Hear another miracle, and I said this about my
Yeah.
brother. I tell you, our relationship was really good for a long time, and a lot of things in around recovery sometimes pry that stuff apart, right, and have some issues. And I did some things to him that I shouldn't do. And Monday he celebrated 1 year of recovery.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my
I
gosh.
know it, and it was when I was down at the retreat last year. Whenever I heard the news that they made the decision, him and his wife. Yeah, I'm down there with 32 guys around the campfire, and I go up top of the hill, get a phone call, just
And
check
that's the
phone,
phone call you
and that's
got at the
one of the
retreat.
voicemails I had while I was down there doing that, and I couldn't be happier. What's been there funny thing? My sponsor just celebrated 36 on Monday too. So my sponsor and my brother have the same sobriety date, but
Oh,
35
wow.
years apart from one another.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Coincidence, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
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 Oh,
so
look
it's
at
just so
you.
cool. There's just nothing. I've heard people talking about a 5-year slump. Everybody jokes around about it, but I really did, and I didn't hear them talking about like sharing that. But I heard people saying that they've had trouble in their 5th year of recovery. A lot of
I
people
heard a
saying
lot
that.
of it.
And so I paid attention to that, and I listened. And I had a great. I celebrated 5 in January. I had a great 5th year, and the things that I did, and I always try to make like an end of the year gratitude list. And that was one of the things that was on it. Was Neil getting sober, and deciding to pick up these tools, and
5 years.
I mean, this stuff. I continue to add. My sponsor had me start a group, like a long-term gratitude list. I call it my miracle list. And when anything happens that I go like this, and it's got to, it has to meet a certain threshold. But I added to that list, and it just keeps on growing as a result of this stuff. And sitting out here making woodwork and the retreats and brothers getting sober and running these podcasts. Becky came in and did it just not long ago too. She's kind of one of the matriarchs from that night.
Yeah.
The ladies who had an impact on me that night.
I know she
And
did.
we stay in touch with her too. I'd like to. I might have to look at my memory banks, because that might be some places I can mine some more friends to come over and chat.
Okay. I thought about it. I found myself. I thought about it, for a second. I will think about it more, but it's just, it's a really neat thing. I knew when I was sharing, with you a little bit ago about the women and somebody tell me you're being sent, or whatever. I was, really, I haven't been feeling very good. And we were talking a little bit earlier, the allergies and all that. Now you can't help but be a little bit about, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I sneeze.
And then so my chest's a little tight, so I hold my breath and I count to 10 to make sure I can do that. But the truth is, I've had serious sinus headache and fatigue and all this stuff for, a few days, and what I really know the reality of it is I suffer bad. You know, like I said, I don't know a lot of people do, but I'm talking about me. I suffer bad and have, not just spring, you know, but so I have to keep it in perspective, you know, because like, oh yeah, you go through this, Deb. I mean, you go through this, you do this. So anyway, where I was going with that, I feel bad. Work, I felt bad. Like it wouldn't have took me a whole lot just to go home. And I just couldn't wait to get home and take a nap. And I knew that I had a couple of things going after work, you know, business call, and I had this going. And I was like, for a minute, I was like, my God, I just don't feel like it. And it almost felt like I was feeling worse. And I'm like, I just need to lay down. So I was talking to a friend, and I said, you know, I spoke on, you know, coming over and doing this. And I said, you know, it's not a have to thing. Because I use the get to, you know, we hear that. I learned that. I used that. And for a while, it's kind of like, okay, you know, you got your finger down your throat. You're like, oh, I get to, you know. But no, I really told me, I said, no, you know, I get to do it. You know, what an opportunity. And for one, I know you well enough to know that for whatever reason, and now we've spoke on it aloud, the text, accidental phone call, you know, divine intervention, whatever, I call them divine appointments. But it's like, okay, so we spoke on that, but it's like, I was telling him, I said, man, if it wasn't for that, I said, I wouldn't go. And before I even got my thing out, they were like, well, no, you want to, just because somebody knows you well enough to know, no, said you're awesome, and you're going to, how they put it, you're probably really going to help. They're not even in a recovery program. You're probably really going to help somebody, and you're really awesome at, you know, you have a really awesome story.
You do.
And I was like, I said no. I said I'm going to go. I'm going to go because when stuff like, and you've been talking about it all evening, Dan, I'm going to go because when something like this is presented to me, I don't question it. Right. Because I already know it's part of a happening.
Right.
You know, and you have been speaking on that. I know I'd have to feel pretty bad. I'm not saying, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying if I was like, oh my God, I'm miserable,
yeah,
and
right.
you know, and
within reasable,
within
measures,
reason, you know, because I don't do guilt that bad, you know, but I'll be like, okay, well, I do guilt a little bit, that if I don't have a decent, you know, just because I don't feel like it, I change my mind, I could be honest and tell you, Dan, you know what, I thought about that, I don't really feel on that tonight. But that wasn't it. I just didn't feel good. And I'm like, if you get some rest, you'll be all right or whatever. But I knew. I intuitively knew. And I was just like, no. I said, I have to go. You don't even, I mean, but thank you. I thanked them. Thank you for that, you know. Yeah. But no, I'm going to follow through. For one, I said I would, you know. And,
I'm glad you did. I've been excited about it.
Plus, I knew it's all goodness. It has to be goodness. Why would I cheat myself?
And I try not to be like somebody where I'm going to push, you know. I like plant the seed out
there.
Yeah,
you said that.
I'll nudge again, you know, but I'm not going to be like hounding somebody. I'm just not, you know. I mean, I want you to want to kind of thing, you know. I'm not.
You said that. I'm not trying to push, but just a little quote unquote nudge. Yeah. And I was
because you know sometimes people need that little nudge. You know?
I do.
I mean, if they're not, you know. So I've gotten to enough confidence in myself that I don't want to necessarily, like I said, I'm not going to be a pain in the butt, but I will nudge a little bit because, you know, sometimes.
And my text said.
Sometimes you need to know I really want you to come.
And my text just took off on yours. It just was reworded that I don't like to be pushed, but I do need a nudge, you know, and I know that about me.
And sometimes that's enough, you know, and I've learned doing this, that sometimes all I have to do is just like one more time, and they'll say,
it was all play on words. Like, I know I need push, but I also know I don't like pushy people.
Right, yeah.
I can probably be a pushy person, you know, but you knew. And really, I knew that I hadn't answered. I knew that, and I knew you were gone. You had shared, you know, to pick or whatever day, and I knew you'd be gone. And then it slipped my mind, and I kind of didn't think about it for a little bit. So it was really good that it's all timing. It's all timing anyway.
And sometimes I get ahead a little bit. I try not to. I try to stay pretty well on time where I'm releasing these podcasts pretty soon. You know, I don't really want to. I've gotten in a position where I had a few in the can because, like a bunch of guests, people express some interest. So it's like strike when the iron's hot, right? So,
Okay.
so I'll do them, and then I end up with like a few weeks of podcasts.
Okay.
And I don't like to, have another guest in because I don't want like some people. It's getting to be that people don't seem to care as much. But there was a period of time where people were like, "When's my podcast going to be out?" And I don't want to tell you like 4 weeks from now because I do just do them on Sunday. So I try to stay pretty on time today, and I like that because it just seems fresh, right? You listen to you can go on the internet and listen to all the speaker tapes you want, and it's good to listen to one from 1952. But
yeah, that's
let's
right.
hear what's going on today.
Oh my gosh, today.
And I said there's also another little dynamic about this podcast world because Jerry's the one turned me on to all the speaker tapes, and I am a speaker tape junkie, man. That stuff helped me immensely over the years of pouring something into my ears. Pouring this recovery into my ears.
Okay.
Almost like a brainwash thing,
I could use a couple good ones. I was
popping
turned
in,
on a
popping
good
in,
one not too long ago,
and,
but it had been a while, honestly. I hadn't listened to it.
But like newer guys, younger guys who are coming in, if you say something to them about listen to these speaker tapes and stuff, even that tape word, I think there's a
They're
rejection
like,
kind of
shut
thing.
down.
Kind of comes like it wasn't his idea, so he ain't gonna like it.
Imagine that.
I think there's a little of that in there, But I'll go, you ever listen to podcasts? And they go, yeah, man, I love listening to podcasts. I said, cool, we got you.
See, now I am
they won't
intrigued.
want to do the speaker tape, but they'll listen to the podcast. And at some level, like those speaker tapes are some like the original podcast at some level.
It's brilliant.
They were doing that stuff a long time ago.
It's brilliant.
Tell you another thing is also, I say in here, if you listen to them, that there's a collateral, we talk about collateral damage, and there's a collateral benefit to a lot of things too, if you look at it that way. Again, it's which way glass half full stuff. One of the collateral benefits is that I get to know my friend better when they come in. Right? We get to talk, we get to chat. I get to hear some things that I haven't heard because we go 3 hours of talking.
Oh my goodness! I'm not surprised, but I couldn't. I'm
But
excited
I know
to
a
talk.
lot about you, and I've heard you talk, and I've heard you share, and I know quite a bit about your story in general. But I know more tonight. There's another little dynamic going on, like in my home group. Is like guys who are coming in on Zoom, they don't get to stand outside and talk to us after the meeting and get to know you. I keep the room open a half hour long, and if you want to hang around, I'll keep the Zoom room open. And we can fellowship in there a little bit.
Right.
It's not the same though, But
It's
guys
not.
are listening to these podcasts because all these guys in my home group are on the podcast, and they're getting to know. If they're new, they can get to know people through
See, that's
listening
cool.
to the podcast and get to feel like they know them. Had another gal that was a wife of a friend of mine, and we went to a Super Bowl party or went someplace. No, it was his birthday, and she come up and gave me a hug that was just a couple levels above what you would expect. We weren't that close.
Okay, gotcha. I'm following you.
And she
Yeah.
caught it too. She goes, "Oh, you don't realize the relationship we have going on here." She said, "I've been working in our rental house all week listening to your podcast. I feel like I know you better."
Wow. All
I was
right.
like, "Yeah, I get
Oh,
that."
hey, yeah, I can get that.
Yeah.
Maybe I feel like I know you
Yeah.
a little more.
Yeah, so there's a lot
That's
of
neat.
lot of little things are going on around this thing that I hadn't.
A lot more meets the eye. So
Yeah,
to
and I've
speak.
get some emails from all around the country. I've had some emails from out of this country.
Wow.
People have listened to it, and people, so it's getting some reach, and people are liking the format stuff. So I'm pretty happy. I'm juiced up when we do these things.
I like that. That sign, well, the light attracts me anyway, plus it gives me something to stare at. And I do realize, somebody called me that on a while back, years ago. It's like, you don't look. And I'm like, I don't have no problem looking down, but the light, and I've seen the word juice. I've heard you use it, but I've seen it before.
Yeah.
When I told
Yeah,
you
we
I
didn't
kind of went
invent
to
it.
the little thing. I like it. That works.
Yeah, my nephew
stop.
brought that. They had tore down a grocery store, and they said they had fresh milk and fresh eggs, and they had the all natural juice. And he
All
sent me a
juice.
picture of it, and he goes, "You want this?" I thought it was like this big around.
He said,
Yeah, he come over, and I'm like, "Whoa, that thing is big!"
it's got my focal point.
But,
Yeah,
yeah.
I was just like, I just keep staring at it, and it just, I don't know, it helped me focus or something, I guess. It's almost like a fire, the flame. I keep looking up at that light,
Yeah.
juice.
You know, I come out here at about
Healthy juice,
Yeah.
not just any juice.
Not
It
just
says healthy.
refreshing, healthy. I come
Yeah.
out here like probably about 8 o'clock this morning, and I pretty much, besides going in and taking a shower before you showed up, I've been out here since that.
Have ya?
All day long.
Oh, this
I will
could
spend
be-
it. I'll sometimes wonder what that other building's for. Dad stays in there. No, hell, he'd be out here a lot too.
It's very,
cooling down.
inviting. It's safe. It's comfortable. Of course, like I told you, I mean, I like tools. Saws are cool. Drill presses are cool. You know.
Yeah.
And going back to the little vise, I mean, it's just real neat. Good for you, Dan. Good for you.
And this is a manifestation of recovery.
Yeah.
It is.
Good for you. I mean, sometimes I just look at you. A while ago, I was just listening. I just look at you, and I noticed it when you answered the door and when you smiled. Well, I haven't seen you in a while, not person to person.
Yeah.
You know, and I was excited. I can't say I was excited to come over here. It wasn't even really about me telling a story or whatever. I was excited to connect. I was excited to chat with Dan. I hadn't seen you in a while, and your smile, I mean, your light, it's just beautiful. You're a beautiful person.
Well, thank you.
And, just thanks for not giving up. For keep going. I mean, because here we are, and if you didn't do that, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
you know?
I know, and it's that whole story is just fascinating, and you watch people and the people God puts in your life to walk it, and whose examples, and we've seen a lot of each other for a few years.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I was just grinning because there was some good times, some fun stuff, a lot of recovery, a lot of newness, a lot of growth.
Yeah, we
lot of
need
challenges.
one another. I need you. I need people like you. I need these people to help me do this thing because that's like a lot of times I just thank people in the meeting for coming to the meeting because I'd be so I have a meeting to go to, right?
And now I can. I mean, I don't know where I've been. I Facebook a little bit and to post my little pictures and try to pay attention to other people. It ain't all about me. Check in on people, throw something out there, and I'll scroll sometime and I'll tap onto a positive video or something. I remember scrolling past it, but I bet I pay attention now. I'm not technology savvy. That's fair. Okay. And that's okay. That's okay. But since I accomplished the Zoom thing.
That's a big hurdle.
I did that. And then the women's group were Zooming over there too, in my life group. We're doing that. And it's like, we do a podcast. I tap into that. I mean, I think I'm blushing probably a little bit. I didn't know about no dang podcast. I mean, before I started doing these series and stuff in my spiritual growth. And so when you were talking about their tapes or their CDs or their speakers or whatever, I'm like, podcast? What's it been? And I even had I'm like, a podcast? Dan does podcast. That's like that thing. I mean, I had to I talk myself to that, and I'm laughing because I was just kind of ignorant to things. So now podcasts are a part of my life now.
There's a lot of good podcasts out too that I listen to on a regular basis. It helps me feed my brain just like those old speaker tapes and things. Except for I can get
I thought they was just
stuff.
called videos.
Yeah, well, most of this is just audio. There won't be any video.
Okay.
I do sometimes once in a while. We'll do some ones with video, and I've been toying with that. And I do. I put this on YouTube, but it won't have our video on it. It'll just be the audio on YouTube. Yeah, and I have done a couple video ones. Christopher and I have done a couple, and then if I do somebody with Zoom, it just lends itself because you can actually record that audio thing if they're cool with it. Obviously if they're cool with it.
Right.
But I can still strip off the audio even if they're not. So.
I see.
Yeah. I think we better wrap this up. One thing
Okay.
about when they
I think
get
that'd
when they
probably be
get
a
long,
good
like
idea.
when they get out here.
Yeah. Good stuff, Dan. Good
Any
stuff.
final thoughts?
I'm thankful. I'm really thankful.
I told you it'd be fun.
I want to say honored. I mean, I think that's where I was going. Like if, because of whatever reason my name came up, whether it was a text or whatever on your heart, it's like you. I want to say honored a little bit. I mean, because it's all just supposed to be.
Yep.
You know. I mean, you think of people, whether somebody on a little list or it's given to you, you know. However, it's just a neat thing.
Yeah.
And just give back.
Yep.
Just give back.
Sometimes I have to reach for guests a little bit. Sometimes they just fall out of the sky. One of my favorite things, there's a lot of times when somebody pulls up my driveway, I have never met them. You know,
Okay.
They show up here, and I've had a number of those, you know, and they pull up in the driveway, and I figure that must be the car that's coming. It's on time. And I walk out, and I meet them, and I introduce myself.
Let's
and
do this,
I bring them back here, and I sit down, and I get a new friend. I think,
New
like I said, I
friends.
think I'm pretty easy to talk to. So you know, when people walk out of here, I haven't had anybody give off any kind of vibe that they wish they hadn't have done it. You know,
Yeah,
most
you're easy
people
to
are
talk
most people are spirits seem to be pretty high when they leave. So and I know mine always are.
Yeah.
Of course,
I mean,
stay
it's
pretty.
exciting.
People say, "How are you?" I was kind of a little bit like terminally fantastic. I'm pretty good most of the time. I know it's a
Yeah.
little spooky, but
Wait.
ride it.
Write it out.
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Why not?
Write it out. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I love you. I
you
I
too,
think
Dan.
it's you, like I said in the beginning.
Yeah.
You've had an impact on me, and I will be forever grateful. I know you did it by accident to some extent. I don't think there's accidents. You were suited up and showed up and in there that day, you know, and
Supposed to
and
meet
I
Dan.
needed to see that, and that is just cool stuff. That's just the way this thing works. It's just fundamental with this whole. Well, I won't even limit it to recovery. It's just fundamental of life, really. If you're suiting up and showing up and putting yourself out there so that you can be of service to somebody else, then higher power uses you and does it. You know. And
Yeah.
that's where I want to be today.
I mean, I wish I had a mirror and you could see your face. You know, oh, his face is just lit.
Well,
you know, it's
I-
beautiful.
yeah, it is, and it's real. It's
It's-
genuine.
oh, well, you-
know?
yeah,
I don't
you
think
ain't
juice
making-
side of versus genuine on it, but this
You
juice
ain't
is
making
genuine.
it up. No, it's nothing fake about that.
So I
Yeah.
always close this thing out with two things, and both of them are somebody else's. Anything I've learned in recovery has been taught to me. Certainly don't invent any of this. So I always say, if you're not having a blast in your own recovery, it's your own damn fault, because it's available.
Okay.
And I also like to thank everybody. This comes from Happy. I like to thank you all. Thank you, Debbie, for allowing me to participate in my recovery in this manner tonight. Love you all. Peace out.
Always tried to be just who they wanted. Always tried to do everything they said. Only did the things they would approve of. Lock away all your dreams inside your head. Year after year you try to be a good girl. They never failed to point out when you were bad. Stuck to the program like a robot. Became a trophy for mom and dad. But inside you want more. Everything you've been waiting for. Looking for that open door. it's time to put away your baby toys. Make your mom have a plan.